Welcome, all my Washington football brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Washington football fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Washington Football Report. Lot to get to tonight. Didn't do a video on Dontrelle Inman's signing. We're going to talk about that at great lengths tonight, what that actually means for the roster. I was very intrigued by the timing of this. We'll talk about all of those things. A lot of coaches speaking. Now, I'm not very familiar. I can't speak for you guys out there, but I'm not very familiar with this coaching staff. So to hear a lot of these guys speak this week for training camp, and they don't know a lot. That was one of the biggest takeaways, is that they don't know anything yet. And because this is such a unique set of circumstances, and I forgot which coach put it in this particular context. I think it was Ron Rivera that I was listening to, who talked about how this is essentially OTAs that they're going through right now. And that's kind of how they're ramping this thing up. And so they're not really figuring anything out. There aren't any pads. There's nothing really football related going on other than, going through the verbiage, going through the motions. It's almost like a glorified walkthrough right now. So a lot of conditioning going on and things of that nature, but you're not actually figuring out who's going to play nickel for you right now. You're not actually figuring out, all right, which one of these guys can play outside opposite of Terry McLaurin. Like, you're not figuring out those things right now as we speak. You're just trying to make everyone as comfortable as possible and giving them the knowledge that they're going to need to help them potentially make this football team and contribute in some way, shape, or form once the lights go on September, I believe it's 11th. So they're just kind of ramping themselves up. So you can't really gain a lot from what's being said right now, but you can listen to these coaches and the frame of mind that they have going in to training camp, going into the season with these players that a lot of them are unfamiliar with because of the COVID situation. So I thought that a lot of what the coaches had to say was interesting. We're going to talk about that tonight as well. I'm going to make sure I carve out a bit of space for that tonight. And then the big meat and potatoes of what I want to talk about tonight is going to be my top 5 storylines, my 5 biggest storylines for training camp this year. I think these are things, and I want to hear from you guys as well. What are your 5 biggest storylines going into training camp? Looking forward to hearing from you guys on that. I want to first and foremost thank you guys for joining me tonight on the show. Lot to get to, as I mentioned. A number of different ways that you can donate to the show. So I want to make sure I thank all of my patrons. Had some new patrons join up last week, and Kevin Dorrowfield and my man, I forgot his name. It'll come to me. But I want to thank you guys on Patreon. All of you who have subbed up over on Patreon, thank you so much for your generous donations. And so a lot of different ways that you can donate to the Louie T Network. There's obviously Patreon. There's also CashApp. And again, Louie T Network across every platform, whether it's PayPal, all right, Louie T Network, whether it's CashApp, Louie T Network, or it's on Patreon, Louie T Network. And obviously you can donate tonight as well via the super chat. And so I thank you guys in advance for all of the contributions that you've made. And I thank you guys so much for all that you guys bring to the table. With that being said, I do want to start tonight off by, Gally Sanford is the other patron that joined last week. So I want to give a shout out to Gally Sanford as well. Thank you so much. And all of you who are patrons, thank you so much. Looking to do big things on that platform if they're still around. But I thank you guys in advance for that. But what I want to start the show with tonight is essentially the signing of wide receiver Dontrelle Inman. And I wrote this in my in the description for this video that I thought it was really interesting, the timing of this signing, because remember, we had talked at great lengths about this team potentially adding a veteran wide receiver. We thought that was a distinct possibility, and we talked about it on numerous occasions, especially once Kelvin Harmon went down. Before the injury to Harmon, I don't think that there was a big need to add a veteran. Some of you thought that before the injury to Kelvin Harmon, the Redskins needed to add a veteran presence. A lot of you were advocating for a, Antonio Brown or Josh Gordon or someone like that before the injury to Kelvin Harmon. I didn't think it was until after that injury where they really started to consider, okay, maybe we do need to bring in a veteran. But I still contended that, hey, we're going to wait until they get to camp. We're going to see what happens once they get to camp. And I told you guys, if they're not satisfied with what they see out there, you'll know, because they'll make a move quickly. They're not going to wait, because that free agency pool, once teams get to camp, some guys decide to opt out or injuries start to take place. That pool that's already very small of free agents out there that can actually help at this time of the year, it shrinks very rapidly as training camp gets further into its existence. So to me, if they didn't feel comfortable with the receivers they had out there, and they were going to find that out very quickly, they were going to make a move. And I told you guys that 2 weeks ago. I told you that again last week. And I said, look, training camp has begun. We're going to find out very quickly if they're satisfied with what they've seen at left tackle and at wide receiver. Those are the two positions that I thought they might strike quick and early on if they did not like what they saw. Now, again, there's nothing going on that should suggest that, they're really disappointed with the receivers out there. Again, they're just running around out there right now. They're just throwing the ball around. There's not a ton of stuff going on right now. So I don't think that that's what the issue is. However, they understand. They've been doing this for long enough. Ron Rivera's been doing this for long enough. Scott Turner's been around football long enough. Okay, Jim Hostler has been around the football for long enough. They know what they see at the receiver position. They know that, look, we probably need to add a veteran, and they figured that out very quickly. And the guy that they decided to go to, and I told you, it wasn't going to be any of these big name guys out here that a lot of you were throwing around. It wasn't going to be Dez Bryant. It wasn't going to be Josh Gordon. It wasn't going to be Antonio Brown. And I told you the league was going to discipline him. 8-game suspension for Antonio Brown. So any team that wants to sign him, you're going to have to wait 8 games until his suspension has been served. But that's not here nor there. I told you it's going to be a lower named guy, a lower tier guy, a guy that's been in this league, has produced in this league, but not the kind of household name that some of you were looking for. I did not bring up Dontrelle Inman. I didn't even know he was a free agent, but that's who the Redskins decided to sign. And I thought it was going to be someone that they had some familiarity with. And he's been around some of these coaches, but I don't think he's been around a lot of these offensive coaches. But that's not here nor there. Here's a guy in Dontrelle Inman that I've always liked. And this is a guy that had to make it into the league the hard way. Undrafted, out of UVA, ended up in San Diego with the Chargers. And I remember some of his early years in San Diego where they were depleted at the receiver position, and Phillip Rivers really had no one to go to. Keenan Allen was hurt. Travis Benjamin was hurt. They were decimated by injuries in San Diego. And the guy that stepped up and balled for them with nobody else at the receiver position was Dontrelle Inman. So that's where he kind of made his bearings in this league. That's where he kind of was able to make his bones, was in San Diego with Phillip Rivers making plays when there was no one else around. So after using that opportunity in San Diego to get opportunities elsewhere, he ended up in Indianapolis, had some good years with the Colts, some really productive seasons with Andrew Luck there. One in particular that I remember about 3 years ago where he's really on the same page with Andrew Luck. He went to New England, not so much success there. Went back to Indianapolis, actually had a couple of stints with the Chargers early on when they were San Diego, and then again when they were Los Angeles. Same thing with the Colts. He doubled back, had 2 stints with them, and in between there with the New England Patriots. At the end of the day, I love this signing. He's a big-bodied receiver, similar to what Kelvin Harmon was going to bring to the table. He comes with experience. This is a guy that I think is going to definitely be able to help. Okay. And so at the end of the day, I look at it as, hold on a second. Let me see what's going on. Oh, all right. Let's see what we got going on. I think I have, I might have multiple mics going here. Let me try to find the problem. All right. Let's see if I can figure this out. Sorry about that, guys. Aha. I found the problem here. I think I might have found the problem. I apologize for that. But you guys know what this means, right? Normally, I would start it over. I'm not going to start it over on y'all tonight. Normally, you know how I am about live streams and making sure it's perfect and not doing that. So I'm not going to start over on y'all because I got some super chats in here. I don't want to. And I'm just reading some of the comments that you guys are sending. And they're hilarious. I appreciate the love. I super appreciate the love. And I'm going to have to go back and listen to it because I'm getting all these comments about how I sounded like I was in the cave. I sounded like I was a transformer. I sounded like I was supersonic. Okay. All right. I'm glad we got that fixed. Shout out to my lady for looking out. So back to business. The Dontrelle Inman signing is one that I really like. Big body receiver, kind of fills that Kelvin Harmon role. He's a guy that gives you experience on a young roster of receivers. And that was something that Jim Hostler continued to talk about. When I get to our Coach Speak segment, I'll talk about what Jim Hostler had to say about the young receiving core. But you infuse a veteran that's been in this league, that's been around the block, that can help mentor some of these younger guys, give them the ins and outs of the league and how it works, and show these guys how to work, behind the scenes, and also be able to come in and be a steadying, calming influence for Dwayne as well. So I like the signing. Like I said, I've always liked Dontrelle Inman's game. And I want you guys to understand, they didn't bring him in as a camp body. This isn't one of those situations where they're just bringing a guy in to help with training camp. And then when training camp's done and they go down to cut their rosters to 53 guys, he's not going to be on it. This is a guy that's probably going to make this football team. Just look at him as the Kelvin Harmon replacement. Where you had a roster spot carved out for Kelvin Harmon, now insert Dontrelle Inman. He's making his football team. If Dontrelle Inman is healthy, he'll be a member of the Washington football team. So this is a signing that I really like, a very productive wide receiver that will come in here and be able to help right away. And so I think this is one of those signings that quietly will be one of the better ones that we've seen the Redskins make in an offseason full of signings. We were very active in free agency, one of the more active teams in free agency. There weren't many teams that were more active than the Washington football team this offseason. So add this guy to the list of guys that they've signed this offseason. And this is one of the guys that I think is going to stick and be a productive member of this football team, so much so that, even with a healthy Kelvin Harmon next season, who's to say that Dontrelle Inman isn't a part of this football team even next year? So that's one of those signings that I really like. And I think this is a guy that's going to not only make this football team, but be a contributor this year. One of the guys that, you look to on third downs and he's making plays. So Dontrelle Inman, really good signing by the Redskins. I hadn't given you guys my thoughts on the signing quite yet. Had a lot going on this week, but make no mistake about it. He's not a camp body. He's a guy that's going to be on this football team and really help a young wide receiving core. We thought they were going to add a veteran, especially after the injury to Kelvin Harmon, and the guy they decided to go with is Dontrelle Inman. And I think he's not only going to make this football team, but actually be a productive member of this football team. So thank you for, I was acting as if that was a super chat. So now let's get to some super chats, because I got a bunch of super chats coming in, and let's see what we got. So and I'm still weak, and I saw all of the comments just flying down the screen, and I should have known something was up, but I never looked over to actually see what was going on. I should have known that there was some erroneous activity going on. I can't wait to go back and listen to me probably sounding like a robot or something like that. Anyhow, got a super chat from my man Gally Sanford, as always, supporting the brand. Gally Sanford, really appreciate you. Gally writes, wanted to show some support, Big Echo, Louie in sound. I'm probably going to get a lot of that early on. So I had both the camera audio on and my microphone, my external mic, going at the same time. I did not realize it. I should have realized it, but I didn't. And so that was the echoing that you guys heard. I appreciate you guys making sure that I was aware of what the hell was going on. I got another super chat, this one from Adrian Jones. Thank you for the super chat, Adrian Jones. Thank you once again for the super chat, Gally Sanford. Adrian Jones writes, what up, Louie? What in the hell are we going to do at running back? Does AP stay? Geis healthy? Gibson, Love? Great question. I was listening to the running backs coach, Randy Jordan. He's a great listen, by the way. He's a great soundbite. But listening to Randy Jordan talk, you know, I've always said this all along about the running back position. It's, to me, the most intriguing position that the Redskins have. It may ultimately be the best and deepest position that they have. Not a lot of people are giving this group a lot of credit, and that's just about across the board, every position for this football team. Outside of the defensive line, no one's giving any of our positional groups any credit. I can understand receiver, I can understand tight end, cornerback. These are all positions that are causes for concern for us as fans. Offensive line, especially the tackle position, especially the left side of the line. These are all causes for concern as fans of the team. So on the outside looking in, those positions, I totally understand. Hell, you can throw quarterback in there. We don't know what Dwayne's going to be. We feel like, some of us do, that we feel like Dwayne's going to be a stud. But, you know, he hasn't shown it. It's not a big enough sample size. And even us, the most staunch Dwayne supporters, can't take the small sample size that we saw at the end of the season when he was balling and say, hey, we're going to extrapolate that over 16 games. Dwayne's the man, and we're ready to rock and roll. You still got to see it. So I understand a lot of the conversation surrounding this team about how we're not any good, and we're this group of players is ranked 32nd. This group is ranked 29th. This group is ranked 26th. When I saw the running back group, when I saw a list ranking them 26th in the league, I just looked at it and I said, that's not right, but I understand, because when you start looking at it, you're talking about a 35-year-old Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson! You're talking about a running back, a third-year back in Darius Geis that hasn't been healthy, hasn't even played in 5 NFL games yet. Think about that. 2 full seasons, hasn't even played in 5 NFL games yet. Think about that. Let that marinate for a second. Then you're talking about a rookie in Antonio Gibson. You're talking about a second-year player in Bryce Love that hasn't seen the field. Was Bryce Love 2018 draft or 2019 draft? Bryce Love was the I keep feeling like he was 2018. Like, I think he just sat out 1 whole season. I feel like it's been 2 years and Bryce Love hasn't played a game in 2 years and he's going into his 3rd season. I don't even know where we're at with Bryce Love. Just know he hasn't played in the game either. Okay, so I get it. But when you talk about talent, there's so much talent at the running back position. And I didn't even mention your Peyton Barber, who's a veteran, not going to make the team. I told you, if we're healthy, he's not going to make this team. But if somebody goes down, you got a Peyton Barber. That's a really nice insurance policy to have in a Peyton Barber. And then you also got J.D. Mckissick, who I think is going to make this football team. I think the Redskins are going to keep 5 running backs when it's all said and done, because of the versatility that J.D. Mckissick brings and Antonio Gibson brings. I think these are guys that they're irreplaceable because of what they can do, because of how you can line them up. Antonio Gibson is a guy that's going to play everywhere. He's going to play at wide receiver. He's going to play at running back. They're going to move him around. You can do the same thing with J.D. Mckissick. So if something were to happen to Antonio Gibson, knock on a little wood, you're not going to feel like it's the end-all, be-all. And like I always equate a guy like Antonio Gibson to Jordan Reed and how Jay Gruden used to be screwed every single week because he would plan on Jordan Reed playing and he would put together this little portion of plays, about 10 to 15 plays that he wanted to get to. It was his Jordan Reed portion of his playbook, and he would install all of these plays during the course of the week, during practice, and in hopes and in preparation that Jordan Reed was going to play, and then he'd find out on Friday or he'd find out on Saturday Jordan can't go, and then all of the things that you've been working on all week, you got to scrap. That's tough when you're a coach. So now, when you got a guy like Antonio Gibson and you're setting up all these different plays and ways to get him involved, if something were to happen to Antonio Gibson later on in the week or you realize he can't go, all you got to do is insert a guy like J.D. Mckissick, and that's why it's important to keep a guy like J.D. Mckissick on the roster. So I just don't see them moving on from J.D. Mckissick either. So I think they're going to keep 5 backs this year. I think it's a very talented group. I think AD is still going to be your starter week 1, but I really, truly think that Geis is going to push him. And if Darius Geis is healthy, he turns into your bell cow. He turns into the guy that may get 20 carries. Now, I will tell you this. They're going to go with the guy with the hot hand. So if they get into a situation, and if you're a Redskins fan, you should be hoping that this is a team that starts to get leads, are able to get on top of teams, and it allows us to run the football. Like, I envision us playing from behind a lot in 2020. I can't speak for you, but I think we're going to be playing from behind, so that means we're probably going to be relying less on the run and a little bit more on the pass side. But if we are able to get off to good starts in games and remain balanced, and we're able to jump out to some leads, you would love to see a situation where there's enough carries to go around. But make no mistake about it, and they've already said this. I've heard from Scott Turner. I've heard from, Randy Jordan and other guys. The guy with the hot hand, they're going to ride that guy. And you see that around the league now. You've got all these backs by committee, but if a guy gets hot, and you see it in Green Bay, you see it in Minnesota, when a guy gets hot, if he's playing well, you just continue to ride that guy for a little while. So, it could be a game where Geis gets 18 carries and AD only gets 9. And then the next game, AD could get 19 carries and Geis only ends up with 6 carries. I don't think that's going to take place. But again, it's all going to be dependent upon his health, him being Darius Geis. He's got to stay healthy. I feel like he would take over the mantle as the number 1 lead back. If he's healthy, he's got to stay healthy. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show as well. But to me, that's how the pecking order with your your first and second down backs are concerned. Because I view Darius Geis as a first and second down back, even though you hear the coaches talk about how he can do a lot of things. He can catch it out of the backfield, this, that, and the third. They got guys for that. I don't think that's something they're going to ask Darius Geis. But when you listen to Randy Jordan, and I'm going to talk about that again when we get to the Coach Speak segment, Randy Jordan spoke about how all of these backs are capable. They're going to ask them to do everything, right? Everyone's going to be responsible for knowing how to do everything. And this is the way it should be done. Now, what he specifically said, though, is that we're not going to put guys in positions that they're not comfortable in. They still need to know how to do it just in case they end up in the game in that particular situation. Say an injury or two happens and we don't have any choice but to put you in that particular situation. You still need to be aware of what you are responsible for on that play, even though you may not be the strongest at it. For an example, AD is not supposed to be running a Texas route. And a Texas route is simply an arrow route. All right, so that's when you essentially set up a linebacker by running hard as if you're running into the flats, stick your foot in the ground, and run straight over the middle of the football field, right in the line of vision of the quarterback, and he's supposed to get it to you. We see guys like Alvin Kamara, and we've seen LaShawn McCoy and guys like that win on the arrow route for years, killing guys over the middle of the football field. Hell, Chris Thompson used to do it for us on a daily, all right? On a weekly basis, he would break off a dude and leave him at the post or leave him at the corner route and go to the post right over the middle of the football field, and Kirk would get it to him. So that's not what Adrian Peterson is supposed to be doing, especially at this advanced age of his career. But if he still needs to know how to do it, and if he's pressed into action in that particular situation, they need him to be able to carry that out. Even if they're not looking to get him the football, it's his responsibility to run that route correctly because he's going to dictate some coverage. And they need him to suck up that linebacker in the middle of the field, so maybe that opens up a dig route behind it, things like that. So the beauty of what we have at the running back position is that we've got guys for everything. We've got first and second down backs. We've got guys that can catch it out of the backfield. We've got multifaceted guys that can stretch you to the outside, to the perimeter, and speed guys. We got guys that can run it up in between the tackles. We got guys that can do a little bit of both. So there's some diversity in our running back group that a lot of teams lack. And so I love what we have. Again, it's all about health. Bryce Love hasn't been healthy. Darius Geis hasn't been healthy. Antonio Gibson, unproven. J.D. Mckissick hasn't been healthy. These are all things that when you look at the Redskins running back group, you have to say to yourself, okay, I understand why there's some apprehension to give this group any credit and acknowledge that there is talent here. But at the end of the day, there is talent here. And I'm excited about this group, maybe more so than any other group on the offensive side of the football. And so when you talk about the running back position, I think it starts with AD because he's the most reliable of the group. And then you go to Geis, and I think they want to pass that torch to Darius Geis. Jay Gruden wanted to pass. Remember, Gruden benched AD week 1 last year versus the Eagles. Why? He wanted to pass the torch to Darius Geis. But Geis has to stay healthy in order to receive that baton. Like, AD is going to run that first lap around. He's going to run that first leg of this race. He wants to hand that baton to Darius Geis. Geis has got to be healthy enough, not holding his hamstring, not holding his meniscus, not holding his ACL. He's got to have his hand out backwards like this, waiting for the baton that Adrian's running, trying to hand to him, and he's got to take it and run with it and never look back. And that's what we're hoping for as Redskins fans. So when I look at the running back position, I think you're keeping 5. I think this is a group that keeps 5, and I think all of these guys in some way, shape, or form are going to be able to contribute on this football team. And you know the running back position is usually a war of attrition anyway. So you want to be locked and stocked at that position because injuries happen at that position more so than any other position in football. And so you need guys that can come in and step up as replacements. And that's the beauty of this roster this year is we're not there yet, but I feel like there's more depth on this roster. And this is the thing. We don't have enough blue chip players. We don't have enough 5-star players. That's why we didn't have anybody on the top 100. We don't have enough of those guys that are household names outside of our fan base or even our division. However, we've got a lot more depth. When you talk about this roster, you say, hey, if this guy goes down, we got another guy that we can plug in. And this is really the first time we've been able to say that. And that's what free agency, I know a lot of you were disappointed with free agency. Not enough household names, not enough big cash ticket items that the Redskins purchased. But what they did do was they built up a bank in terms of their roster. They built up a bank that's going to allow them to withstand injuries a little bit better than they have in the past. Okay, so if a guy goes down at the linebacker position, we've got plenty of linebackers this year. If a guy goes down at corner, you may not want to see Greg Stroman in the game, but guess what? Greg Stroman is coming into the game. All right, you may not want to see Aaron Colvin in the game, but guess what? Aaron Colvin's coming into the game, and I like Aaron Colvin a lot more than a lot of you do out there. So there's depth on this football team. You may not like it, you may not love it, but it's depth. Better than we've had in the past where we've had to go scrape practice squad guys off the practice squad or scrape, guys off the street and bring them in to play meaningful snaps for this team. We've actually got depth. Will it last is the question. You know the story there, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show as well. Thank you for the super chat, Adrian Jones. Got another super chat. This one is from Barrett Down and my man BD. Thank you for the super chat, BD. Greatly appreciate you, BD. BD writes, is Peterson going to be able to just do his part and be happy with all the backs in the mix? Obviously, he wants to play. He still thinks he can play at a high level. And I've always said this. when you have been a league MVP and you've played at a very high level for a very long time, as AD has, and he's still playing at a relatively high level, just not up to his standards, but you're usually the last one to know that you're not the same guy you were 5 years ago. Because Adrian Peterson still thinks he can play at a high level. He understands that he may have lost his step or he may not be able to juke and break a guy off like he once did, but we still see him break dudes off all the time, okay? So he's still doing some of the things he used to be able to do, just not at the level that he used to do it at. And so I think he understands that his skill set has diminished a bit. And there's some young guys, some young pups back here that are ready, chomping at the bit, ready to get their opportunity. He doesn't care about that. He wants to play. But, at the end of the day, he's got to understand. And I feel a little bit more comfortable about AD and his role on the team after the whole situation with Jay Gruden last year. Because that was his opportunity to bulk and sulk and really be a malcontent and be a disruptive force on the sidelines. And he didn't. He could have easily been. Now, it's one thing when a coach says, bro, you're not playing and you're not even dressing. Well, there's no reason to follow the coach around. You're not playing. It's a little bit different when you're suited and booted, ready to go, got your helmet on, mouthpiece in your mouth, and you're ready, and they keep calling everybody else's number but yours. I think that changes the dynamic a bit, but I think he understands that, hey, look, you're getting an opportunity to earn here. There was a chance that if the Redskins didn't come calling, nobody was going to come calling, and your career as you knew it was over in this league. So I think he is at this point now where when he was in New Orleans, when he was in Arizona, he still felt like, I'm the man. I'm AD. I'm unbreakable. What are you doing not playing me? I think now that was a humbling experience for him. And remember, he didn't get picked up in free agency right away. The Redskins had an injury, to Darius Geis. Was it Darius Geis that year? I think it was Darius Geis that year. That went down against the Patriots the first week of training camp, and in comes Adrian Peterson. So remember, he wasn't assured an opportunity to play. So I think you have a situation now where I think he understands this could be it for him. And so, he's got to make the best of this situation, because not only does it matter how he carries himself on the field, it also matters how he carries himself off the field, because this is his last year in Washington in terms of on his contract. Now, who's to say if the Redskins decide to bring him back or not, if he has another impressive season? But what if he has a really impressive season, Redskins decide not to bring him back? But you're mouthing off on the sidelines, you're stalking Ron Rivera on the sidelines because you want to play and he's not putting you in. What happens then is that other teams see that behavior and they're like, we don't want to deal with that. We got young players here. We don't need that. So we're not going to bring in the veteran, even though he still has some tread. You know why a guy like Forever Frank continues to get work in the league? Yeah, Frank's still playing at a high level. Frank's still productive. However, the reason Frank continues to get work is because he's a likable guy. It's the reason that Josh McCown is still getting work to this day. It's the reason that Matt Moore's phone continues to ring even though he was out teaching. The Chiefs called him up in the middle of the season. Hey, dude, we could use you. If you're a likable dude, you help in the locker room and you help the others, and you're a guy that gets along with everybody, you keep yourself in shape, you can stay in this league for as long as you like. And so Adrian is one of those guys that now I think his play on the field matters a ton, but also, can you also be a great teammate? And so I don't think he's going to have a problem with other guys playing, but don't get it twisted. He's a competitor. He wants to play, but he also isn't stupid. He understands that there's a lot of young pups behind him that want to play as well. So we'll see how they balance all of that out. Thank you for the super chat, Barrett Downing. Got a super chat here from Will Morales. Thank you for the super chat, Will. Greatly appreciate you. Real writes, Louie, we appreciate your work and passion for our beloved Washington football team. Hey, I thank you for that, Will. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you for the love, support, and the donation. I greatly appreciate that, Will. And I'm going to continue to grind for you, whether we're the Redskins, Washington football team, Red Wolves, Red Hawks, Red Tails, Duck Tails. Doesn't matter. I'm going to be here with you guys through and through. Thank you again for the super chat, Will Morales. Got another super chat. This one from Abuho. Thank you for the super chat, Abuho. Greatly appreciate you. Abuho writes, I'm glad we got Inman. We really need another wide receiver since Harmon got injured, and I'm glad we didn't get Antonio Clown. Obviously, Antonio Brown wasn't even, I don't think he was really being considered here. I told you guys as much. And Ron Rivera had to answer the Antonio Brown questions earlier on during camp, or not camp, but during the COVID situation when they were doing the Zoom calls. And he talked about the Antonio Brown. We talked about it on this program, how he said, look, we want to add, we want to see what these young guys have. This was before the Kelvin Harmon injury, obviously. But he talked about wanting to add, or wanted to see what the young guys could bring to the table. And, I figured if they were going to add a veteran receiver, it wasn't going to be somebody the likes of an Antonio Brown or Des Bryant or, Josh Gordon or anybody like that was going to take away from what these young guys are trying to build here. It was going to be a veteran that was going to be able to come in and assimilate, not someone that was going to come in and want to be the main attraction. They wanted someone that was going to come in and just fit in and not, cause a distraction or a stir. And Dontrelle Inman is going to do that. And he's a veteran that's going to provide us with some actual quality depth and a guy that could come in. I'm not saying he's going to start opposite of Terry McLaurin, but it wouldn't shock me if he did. But I think he's a guy that comes in and right away gives you a calming, steady influence on this receiver group. And, when you listen to Jim Hostler talk, he talks about this group of receivers just being extremely young. He's like, I don't even know these guys, and that's the truth of the situation. And the truth of the matter is he doesn't know these guys, and there isn't a lot of experience. And we've talked about that all offseason. And so you get a guy in Dontrelle Inman, it does provide you with a little bit of experience. So I never thought Antonio Brown was in play for the Redskins. And that's why I never did a video on it, because, he was a guy that was seriously in consideration when Bruce Allen was here, when, the Steelers were looking to move him. It wouldn't have shocked me if the Redskins got him, and that's why I did a video then. But, after seeing all of his antics off the field, this guy, first of all, he needs help. And we talked about that already. He needs help desperately. But after seeing all the theatrics off the field and knowing that he was going to be disciplined by the league, there's no reason to take a flyer on Antonio Brown. No matter how bad Dwayne Haskins wants to see that guy on this team, there's no reason to bring in a guy like Antonio Brown, especially when we've been talking all offseason about changing the culture. That's going in the opposite direction. And all of a sudden you bring a guy like that in and you're talking about changing the culture. Changing the culture starts to fall on deaf ears if you make a move like that. So I'm glad we brought in Dontrelle Inman as well. Thank you for the super chat, Abuho. Greatly appreciate you. Got another super chat from Gally Sanford. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Gally Sanford. Greatly appreciate you as always. Again, man, Gally writes, you the man. Thanks for all you do. Thank you for all that you do, Gally Sanford. Thank you for all of your contributions, and thank you for supporting the movement known as the Louie T Network. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're greatly appreciated. Got another super chat. This one is from Barrett Downing as well. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Barrett Downing. I think I got a little joke here. Hold on a second. Let me make sure I didn't skip over a super chat. All right. Barrett Downing, thank you for doubling up. My man BD, as always, writes, thanks for not transforming, Lou. Keep up the grind. Respect. Oh, man. I cannot wait to listen to that audio in the first, 5 to 7 minutes of the video. I'm just glad that I didn't go on, because I've done this before where I've gone on like 25-minute rants. Then I look down and everyone's like, you're on mute. And I'm like, are you serious? I remember doing that after one of the Redskins losses on Monday Night Football to some team. I think we got our ass whooped. You guys know how that goes on a Sunday or a Thursday or something. And I jumped on live on the overtime show. And I went off for like 20, 25 minutes. And I think it was the Dallas Cowboys loss like 2 or 3 years ago on a Thursday night football. Was it Thursday night? I think it was a Thursday night game against the Cowboys on the road. It was the Jamison Crowder 2 fumble game. That's the one that I went off on, and no audio for the first like 25 minutes. And I'm just going off. I'm going nuts. I'm going in on the squad and Jamison Crowder and because remember, we still had a shot. I think that was the last year of Kirk, where we still had a shot. And that game was the one that pretty much, it was the Saints game that really put us down that year. But I think that Cowboys game put us to bed for sure. But nonetheless, thank you for the super chat, BD. Got another super chat, this one from Redskins Bay 12th Man. Thank you for the super chat, Redskins Bay 12th Man. Greatly appreciate you. Redskins Bay 12th Man writes, he says, do you think now that the name has changed, they will let Landon Collins wear 21 as the football team? No, nor should they. He's 20 on this football team. He should remain 20. I don't care. Again, and I hate to have to go through this exercise in futility, but I'll do it yet again. I don't care if we're the Redskins, the Washington football team, the Red Tails, the Red Hawks, the Red Wolves. I don't care if we're the Sentinels. I don't care what we are. The Generals, the Warriors. No one wears 21. No one should wear 81. No one should wear 44. No one should wear, 9. No one should wear 33. Like, these are numbers that are sacred in Redskins lore. Like, no one should be wearing these numbers. 28. No one should wear 28. Like, we shouldn't even have this conversation. We've had the retired number conversation already. And there are just certain ones that nobody else should don in the burgundy and gold. And we're not changing our color scheme. We're still the burgundy and gold. And as long as we're the burgundy and gold, as long as this Redskins / Washington football team / whatever we're going to be named, as long as it's still the same organization, it may be a different name, but it's the same organization, that number shouldn't be worn. That's how I feel about 21. So there's no way to change my mind about that either. I just don't think that anyone should wear 21. And Landon Collins, he understands that. 20 is fine. He looks fine in 20. And I'm cool with him just continuing to rock the 20. Hopefully he's able to carve out a Hall of Fame career in 20 here in Washington. That'd be great. We'll see what happens. But 21 off limits. Don't care what the name of the team is. If it's still a part of this franchise, just like the 3 Super Bowl trophies. We're not called the Redskins anymore, but that doesn't mean the 3 Super Bowl trophies go away. Those still belong to the organization. And so does Sean Taylor's contribution. As whether he's as a Redskin or now we're the football team, still 21 regardless in burgundy and gold, and no one else should wear it. So thank you for that super chat, Redskins Bay 12th Man. Got a super chat here from Gearcell1. Thank you for the super chat, Gearcell1. Greatly appreciate you. We about to get a nice little bit of humor with this comment as well. Let's see what fashion faux pas Gearcell1 wants us to guard against. How does the O-line hold up this year? Saw Josh Norman wearing some overalls with a flannel shirt. With a flannel shirt and white sandals. Tragic. Oh no, not a flannel shirt. Oh no. And some white sandals to top it off. That is definitely tragic. What is the O-line? How does it hold up this year? It's a great question. We don't know the answer to it. I feel really confident about this offensive line. If we see the flashes that we've seen from everyone, if we get the best out of everybody that could potentially be starting, I have no doubts that they're going to do an adequate job of protecting Dwayne. I've always said that this was not a mash 'em up offensive line in terms of the run game. That could change with a few different additions. Sadiq Charles and adding in the guard from Indiana. I always forget his name, and it always comes back to me down the road. But you add in a few guys that haven't been on this line, and you get a healthy Brandon Sheriff back, all of a sudden it changes the dynamic of this offensive line. So when I look at what this line could be, I feel confident if they get the most out of Sadiq Charles early on, or whomever's at left tackle. I still believe it's Sadiq Charles, even though, Ron Rivera went out of his way to praise Jaron Christian. Look, they haven't put on pads yet. Our best option at left tackle is going to be Sadiq Charles. and I've already told you this, never, ever trust a man with two first names. Well, all of our tackle options for the left side have two first names. So you got to pick, you got to choose the lesser of all the evils. I think the lesser of all those evils is actually going to be Saahdiq Charles. So when you look at what he brings to the table and you look at what this offensive line can be, if everyone is healthy and playing at a high level, and we've seen flashes from everyone, and if they're playing at that kind of level consistently, I think we're going to be fine up front. I really, really do. Morgan Moses, you guys give him a bad rap. Look, I know Morgan isn't the cleanest guy in terms of, penalties and things of that nature, but he plays his ass off. He plays through injuries. I can tell you this, Morgan Moses, I don't know if he's ever missed a game in his career. I can tell you this, he hasn't missed a game the last 3-4 years, and he's played with a myriad of injuries. I like Morgan Moses. I've told you could do a lot worse at right tackle. We know what Brandon Sheriff is. When he's healthy, he's at an all-pro level at times. I've always been a Chase Roulier fan. Like what he's done for us. He's provided us some stability up front at the center position. As I told you, the Indiana guard is who I think is going to win that left guard position. And I think Saahdiq Charles wins the left tackle position. And if everyone, and we saw flashes from the Indiana guard. Matter of fact, I'm tired of calling him the Indiana guard. So I'm gonna look him up really quickly because it's killing me that I can't remember his name. But he played well down the stretch. We saw him, but that was at right guard filling in for Brandon Sheriff. But he played really well for us last year down the stretch. And I really think that if we can get him to play well at guard, because I think he's better than Wes Schweitzer. So I think he's going to beat him out, and Wes Martin is his name. And so we saw what Wes Martin could do down the stretch last year, even though, albeit it was at right guard, I don't care. He played well. I think Wes Martin wins the left guard position, and Saahdiq Charles wins the left tackle position. And I think your offensive line looks as such, going from left to right: Saahdiq Charles, Wes Martin, Chase Roulier, Brandon Sheriff, Morgan Moses. You put that group in front of Dwayne Haskins, I feel confident if they're healthy, they're going to provide protection for him, adequate protection for him to get the football off. In terms of them opening up holes in the run game, don't ask me about that. We've never been the greatest run blocking team. Also, add to the mix, we've never had tight ends that could really provide us with much of anything on the run blocking front. Maybe that's going to change. Maybe we don't have a bunch of pass catchers anymore, but maybe we got guys that can actually help us in the run game. We will see, because tight ends are an extension of the offensive line, especially when you're talking about running the football. And if you want to run it adequately, you're going to need those guys to do their jobs up front. But I think the offensive line is going to be just fine this season, especially if Saahdiq Charles is able to speed up the learning curve and Wes Martin shows us what he showed us at the back end of the 2019 season. Thank you for the super chat, Gear Cell 1. Kevin Dorfield, thank you for the super chat, Kevin D. My man, Kevin Dorfield, greatly appreciate you. Kevin writes, Montez looking bigger. Feel like he's going to have a great year. The sack race is on. Tell you what, man, Montez was all athlete last year. He had to, figure out how to build up his body. You knew that was going to take a little bit of time. He didn't come into the league looking like Chase Young, even though he's a big dude. Don't get it twisted. He's a 6'6" guy, and he was right around 200. And, I think the Montez Sweat was more around along the lines of like 255, 260. Well, now Montez is probably going to be around 270. And the beauty of it is he can put that weight on at 270, 275, whatever he decides to, is a good weight while not losing any athleticism. And now that he's not asked to stand up and do a lot of the crazy things that he was going to be asked to do in a 3-4 defense, even though I thought he was quite comfortable standing up as well, he's going to put his hand in the dirt, and that's going to allow him to be able to get up the field a little bit better. And that weight that he adds will be fine, because they're not going to ask him to drop into coverage as much as they would have had he been an outside backer like he was in the 3-4 defense. So he looks bigger, stronger, and I think that's all going to bode well for him. What I've always contended is that when he learns how to use his strength, or his length, that's when he's going to turn the corner and become an elite pass rusher, because I look at him in the same vein that I looked at Aldon Smith. Aldon Smith came into the league extremely raw as a pass rusher, but what he did know how to do was use his length and leverage. And that's what allowed Aldon Smith to come into the league, and I think his rookie season have 15 and a half sacks in a very limited role. He wasn't playing on every, snap. He was only coming in. He was essentially a designated hitter for the 49ers in his rookie season, and he still amassed like 15 and a half sacks. Some of that was Justin Smith, running those twists and stunts and allowing him to come scot-free up the middle. But a lot of that was Aldon Smith using his length to really destroy tackles and get up under their pads and drive them back. And I think Montez Sweat has a lot of that capability. He just has to have that come out, and someone has to be able to show him how to get that out of him. So I'm looking forward. I told you guys already, I'm bullish on the defensive line this year. I told you I think we're going to lead the league in sacks. And so I'm with you, Kevin. The sack race is on. Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Ryan Kerrigan, Ryan Anderson, Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne. Obviously, you got Matt Ioannidis, Tim Settle. And I may be missing a guy or two that I'm not thinking about, like a James Smith-Williams that may actually make this football team. The end that we drafted a couple of years ago out of Oklahoma State. Jordan Brailford, like one of these other guys may ultimately step up and provide us with a little juice off the edge as well. So there's a lot here. Really anxious to see how this thing goes. But one thing's for sure, we're going to be counting on guys like Montez Sweat and Chase Young to carry and anchor this defensive unit. And it's good to see Montez putting on some weight and looking to build off of that late season run he had, finishing up the 2019 campaign very strong. Thank you for the super chat, Kevin Dorofield. Got another super chat. This one is from Chilled Dude. Thank you for the super chat, Chilled Dude. Greatly appreciate you, Chilled Dude, who writes, I think this year will be a growing year. Looking forward to battles and pleasant surprises. Who do you have coming in and making impacts from battles? So right now, to me, there are only a select handful of battles. You've got the tight end battle there. You've got the left tackle battle there. You've got a battle at, I think, nickel, corner is somewhat of a battle. We don't know who's starting. I mean, when I listened to Chris Harris, the defensive backs coach, man, he got me excited. First of all, I remember him in his playing days with the Bears. But, to listen to him talk about this group, you would think that this group isn't that bad. And I'll talk about what Chris Harris had to say a little bit later on. But to me, the bigger battles are on the offensive side of the football. Left tackle, tight end, wide receiver. Those are where your big battles, to me, are taking place. Left guard as well. Don't forget about that. But I think that if Wes Martin comes in, shows what he showed last year towards the end of the season, it's not much of a battle there to be had. But they paid Wes Schweitzer to come in here and compete. So it's the battle of the two Wes's. I think the better of the two is Martin. We'll see what happens there. But the one that matters the most to me is the tackle position. And that's the one that we want to see really turn out well for us, because if we don't figure out the left tackle position, it's going to be a long season for whomever's under center. And, that could mean Dwayne not playing 16 games, which is what we are all hoping for if the NFL even gets to play a full 16-game slate. But we want to see Dwayne under center for every single one of these games. We want to see what he can do. And it's hard for him to get something done if he's constantly having to look over his shoulder. And it's hard for the offense to operate the way that they want it to if you've constantly got to help out the left tackle with chips and keeping an extra blocker in. You're losing 20% of your eligibles when you have to do that. So I'd like to see them figure the left tackle position out sooner rather than later. So that's the one that I'm really focusing on. But, when you look at some of the other positions, obviously wide receiver, who's going to play opposite of Terry McLaurin? We feel like Steven Sims has the slot on lock. But, who's the guy that's going to play outside opposite of Terry McLaurin? Who can contribute in that role? That's obviously something we're all going to keep our eyes on. But to me, the biggest one after you get past the left tackle position is tight end, because we just don't know. Like, that's the one position that's an anomaly right now. Like, we don't know. And, Ron Rivera, when you listen to him talking, and I haven't heard from the tight ends coach. It's one of the few positions we haven't heard from in terms of a positional coach speaking quite yet. But when Ron Rivera spoke, when he was asked about the tight end position, he talked about Logan Thomas and how he's waiting for him to come back. And once he comes back, that's going to be a guy that could really move the needle at the tight end position. They're really banking on Logan Thomas. Like, they're really putting a lot of their eggs in the Logan Thomas basket. I hope, for their sake, for our sake, that they're not putting their eggs in the wrong basket. Yeah, we'll see what happens there, but the tight end position is a crapshoot. Who the hell knows? Hale Hinches could end up being one of the best guys we got. Jeremy Sprinkle me, bitch. Sprinkle me. Could end up being the guy. We have absolutely no clue who is going to be the guy. So, when I tell you that the tight end position is when I'd like to see a pleasant surprise emerge from, that's definitely on my short list of positional battles where I'm looking for a pleasant surprise to emerge. Nothing trumps tackle. To me, left tackle needs to be resolved and resolved immediately. But then the tight end position is really intriguing because even if we don't find a guy opposite of Terry, if it's just Terry and Steven Sims and with a sprinkle of, AGG and Antonio Gibson, if it's just a sprinkle of the Antonios in their rookie campaigns, I'm fine with that. I think we can get by with that. But, the tight end position and left tackle are the ones where you're like, all right, we need somebody to emerge and give us something. We got nothing out of the tight end position. Absolutely zero. After week 1 in Vernon Davis's Jesse Owens, Michael Johnson hurdling act over the Philadelphia Eagles down the sidelines for a touchdown, we got nothing out of the tight end position after week 1. Absolutely zero. So we got to get something out of tight end. So that's one of those positions where I'm hoping we get a pleasant surprise. Thank you for the super chat, Chilled Dude. Got another super chat. This one from my man, Rob U. Thank you for the super chat, Rob U. You are my guy. Rob U writes, love the show, Lou. What are the chances Geis opens the season as the starter and not looking back? I would put it right now at a 35% chance. That could grow as I listen to the coaching staff talk, as they put on pads and they start getting into the meat and potatoes of training camp when they actually start doing things and we get a better feel. This is where the lack of preseason games and them being further along in the process hurts us as fans because there's not a lot to go off of right now. But that being said, I think they're going to go with the guy that they know can produce for them right out of the gate, and that's AD. And I think that, like I said, I feel like they want to hand off the baton to Darius Geis. They don't want him to start off the first leg of this race. All right, they want that to be AD. But they do want to hand the baton off to him at some point. And if he can stay healthy enough for AD to come around that first quarter of a lap to hand it to him, I think they want him to take off with that baton and not look back. But the problem is he hasn't been able to stay healthy to receive the baton. Before that baton is passed to him, he's grabbing his ankle, he's grabbing his meniscus, he's grabbing his Achilles, he's grabbing his ACL. So we just need him to stay healthy. If he can do that, I think that he's the guy that they want. Ron Rivera saw it up close and personal last year. We got glimpses, and Randy Jordan talked about this. We got glimpses last year. Remember, Randy Jordan, one of the few holdovers on this coaching staff from a year ago. So not many of these guys are familiar with what guys that are here and have been here have produced other than what they've seen on film. Randy Jordan's one of the few guys that knows what Darius Geis is capable of because he was here with him. He's coached him. He's seen it up close and personal. He saw the Jets game last year. He saw the Panthers game, which was by far and away his best performance. He even saw the little tidbit that we got in the Packers game last year before he got injured for good last season. He was playing well in that ball game before he went down. We know he's fully capable. He's just got to stay healthy. I don't think they start the season off with him as the guy. I think they start the season off with AD as the main ball carrier. But remember, it's on a a possession-to-possession basis. AD could start the game off, play the first 2 possessions, and we could not see him for the remainder of the game. Highly unlikely, but that's possible. Guys comes in, has a couple of good hits. All of a sudden, the offense is moving, and they say, you know what, we're going to stick with Darius for a little bit longer. And then all of a sudden, he gets into a real rhythm. Offense starts moving, and they're like, we're going to just keep him in there. He's the hot hand. So, we'll see what happens. But I think they start the season off with AD. And it wouldn't shock me that by the time we got to week 3, week 4, if Geis has shown the ability to, 1, stay healthy, 2, be productive, and they feel like he's running it a little bit better, he's making better decisions, cuts, visions, that sort of thing. It wouldn't shock me if we saw week 4 that he's starting the game instead of AD. But I don't think week 1, right out of the gate, you see Darius Geis as your bell cow. I think that distinction is going to go to AD initially. Thank you for the super chat, Rob U. Got another super chat. This one is from Rob U again. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Rob U. Greatly appreciate you as always. My man Rob U writes, where is the love for Sean Dion? Sleeper. Sean Dion has become quietly become a fan favorite. One of those guys that I think a lot of us fans are rooting for. We know that this guy's uber talented, played well at Alabama when he wasn't injured, but that's the problem. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. For whatever reason, he didn't get a ton of snaps with this team, but when he was on the field, he seemed to always be around the football. And because of that, look, we didn't have a lot of playmakers. So, when you see a guy like Sean Dion picking off a pass or knocking down a football or just being around the football and being active, you get excited because we haven't had a lot of guys, especially at that particular position at linebacker, just haven't had a lot of guys come in and contribute at a high level. So, I think Sean Dion has become a guy that a lot of Redskins fans have attached themselves to, want to see more of him. I can tell you, it's loaded at linebacker, man. And I'm not saying loaded in terms of a lot of top-end talent. It's just a lot of depth and a lot of guys at the position. And it's one of those positions where they're wiping the slate clean. And remember, Ron Rivera, ex-linebacker. Jack Del Rio, ex-NFL linebacker. They're going to be looking for specific things at the linebacker position. And also remember, coming from Carolina, where they had among the best linebacking core in all of football, they're going to be very particular about the guys they put on the field. And so when you hear them talking about a KPL, like they're not talking about KPL, like Jack Del Rio's infatuation with KPL, it isn't just some made up infatuation. Like he really likes Kevin Pierre-Louis and the tape that he's put forth. That's a guy that they didn't sign just to come in as a special teams guru and someone that it continues to give them more depth. That's a guy that they potentially would start. When you talk about John Bostic, they don't keep talking about John Bostic just because they like his leadership. They're talking about John Bostic because they actually think he can start. So when you talk, there's only 3 positions at linebacker. Cole Holcomb is going to have one of them if you listen to them talk. I don't think Sean Dion is going to play in front of Thomas Davis. All right. So I think Thomas Davis is another guy that's going to play. So now you're talking about one position, and you're probably talking about Kevin Pierre-Louis and John Bostic. And of course, if Reuben Foster ever comes back healthy, all of those guys in front of him there. Again, I think Sean Dion's more of a weak side backer anyhow, but I'm just giving you the depth that, he has to contend with to get onto the field. So when you start talking about the linebacker position, a lot of guys, a lot of bodies out there, and only so many snaps to go around. But listening to them talk, and when I say them, I'm talking about the coaches, especially on the defensive side, they made it abundantly clear, especially early in the season. Look, a lot of snaps to go around because these guys aren't going to be conditioned because there aren't any preseason games. So there isn't going to be that ability to ramp them up and get them prepared to play in a game and have to worry about a 10-play possession. You can try to, build that into practice and you can try to simulate that, but there's no simulating an actual game. You can try as hard as you might. So I think you're going to see more guys getting opportunities to play And this is all I can tell Sean Dion. And I know I don't have to say this to him, but this is the only thing I can tell him. He just needs to be ready. And a wise man once told me, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready, all right? If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And so he just better be ready when they call number 51 to come out on the field. Because I don't think he's going to start, but when his opportunity comes, he's got to be able to be ready to make the most of it so that they see him, he flashes, and they say, hey, we got to get him more opportunities on the field. But let me say this about Sean Dion, or the linebacker position, the tight end position, wide receiver. Everybody's got a clean slate. For a lot of you fans out there that have latched on to specific players. I know there are a couple of you out there that latched on to Cam Sims. Like, this guy for you is a sleeper. No one's giving him credit. He needs an opportunity. Well, he's going to get it now. Because when you listen to Jeff Hostler, he says, look, I don't know any of these guys. Terry McLaurin is the only guy that has proven that he can play at a high level on this team. Nobody else has proven anything. I don't know any of these guys. Everybody's getting an opportunity. That means number 11 on the depth chart right now, and I listed all the guys, the Jester Ways of the world, and all of these other guys that we have on the roster. All of these guys are going to get opportunities. You know why? Because there are no favorites here. Jay Gruden is no longer here. He doesn't have a favorite or two that he really likes. Nobody's guaranteed anything here outside of Terry McLaurin. And Jeff Hostler pretty much said that. So a guy like Cam Sims, if he's as good as you guys think he is, he should be able to make this football team. This is as good an opportunity as he's had to make the team since he's gotten here. And we haven't had a lot of talent at receiver. So that's saying a lot. There's no prejudgment here. There's no biases. All of these guys are getting a fresh start, clean slate. All right, who are the best 5 receivers? Let's go. He's got a chance to prove it. And the same will be said for the linebacker position. Who are the best 8? Who are the best 6? Who are the best 8? I don't know how many linebackers they're going to keep. My guess is that they'll keep 8 or 9. 7 or 8. 9 might be a little bit much for 4-3 defense. But your linebackers are core special teamers. They usually play all special teams. So you'd like to keep more linebackers than just about any other position outside of the offensive line. So we'll see what they decide to do there. But thank you for the super chat, Rob. You got another super chat. This one is from Gally Sanford. Thank you once again for the super chat, Gally Sanford. You are the man, Gally Sanford. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Gally writes, okay, Louie, your wife bailed you out, man. You owe her a romantic dinner after we beat the Cowboys this year and make the Eagles cry at the beginning of the year. Hail, family. Hit thumbs up, please. I second that. You guys make sure that you're hitting the subscribe button, hitting the like button, hitting the notification bell, all of that good jazz. Thank you for the plug, Gally Sanford. And you're absolutely right. She definitely deserves to be pampered, and I'm going to do exactly that. Hopefully it'll be after a victory over the Cowboys and the Eagles, something that we did not do last season. As a matter of fact, we did not win a single game in the division last season. Let's hope we change that immediately out of the gate, week 1 versus the Philadelphia Eagles at home. Thank you once again for the super chat, Gally Sanford. And yes, she did bail me out. I got another super chat. This one is from Door Gunner. Wait, here we go. This one is from Door Gunner. Thank you for the super chat, Door Gunner. Greatly appreciate you. Door Gunner writes, if we have any chance for our defense to reach the top ranks, our offense will have to produce some sustained drives. No more constant 3 and outs. I couldn't agree with you more. I don't care how good of a unit you have. And we've seen this in the past with other teams that have been dominant on the defensive side of the football. No matter how many times you put them on the field, no matter how many times you put them in bad spots, sudden change of possession with a turnover deep in their own territory, and they're able to come out and force a field goal or force a stop on 4th down and get the ball back or whatever the case may be. You don't want to keep putting your defense, especially a young one like the one we're going to put on the field this year. You want to keep them as fresh as possible. And, the best way to help this defense along is to be able to provide some sustained offense, some sustained drives. As Dora Gunner mentioned so eloquently, cannot continue to keep putting the defense on the field because, again, at some point the dam will break. And it doesn't matter how good your defense is. At some point they're going to give it up if you keep putting them on the field and they're tired. You want your defense playing 50 to 60 snaps a game. When you start getting in that 70, 75, 80 snap range, that means you're not doing enough on offense and you're putting your defense at great risk because now they're tired. So with this COVID situation and this unique training camp and not a lot of, reps against other teams and not being able to get the kind of cardio that you want your team to get, it's imperative that early in the season especially, you find ways to sustain offense to keep your defense off the field. So I couldn't agree with you more, Door Gunner. That's something that we haven't done a great job of late, and I know you guys hate when I do this, but I'm going to do it because it's relevant, it's pertinent. When Kirk was here, we sustained offense. That was something that we did. We went on 12 play drives. We went on 13 play drives. We ate up clock. We won time of possession. We were able to keep the defense off the field at times because remember, we were atrocious when Kirk was here defensively. And so a lot of times the best defense was offense, okay? The only defense was offense. Keep these bastards off the field because as soon as we put them on the field, they're going to give it up. So you got to outscore the opposition. We may not have to do that as much this year, but you want to keep them off the field as much as possible because, again, I kind of got a really good feel for what we're going to do defensively, schematically, what we're going to do here. I think you're going to see a ton of cover 3. I think you're going to see a ton of cover 3. Nothing cheap, nothing deep. Keep everything in front of you. I think you're going to see a bend but don't break defense. And what they're really hoping is that we can hit home with 4. I'm hoping we can hit home with 4. Nobody wants to blitz. Remember that. Even the most aggressive defensive coordinators do not want to blitz. They only blitz out of necessity. All right. If you can hit home with 4, there's no need to bring 5 or 6. Now, there's the occasional occurrence where you're like, okay, 4, even though we're winning consistently with 4, why not confuse them even more and bring 5 or 6? But you don't want to make a living doing that. That's how you get beat for big plays. That's how you give up chunk plays. So I think they're going to want to drop 7 into coverage. The more guys you got in the coverage, the more plays you're allowing yourself to make. And I think they want to rush 4. And so, if you're going to do that, if that's going to be your brand of defense, keep everything in front of you, you're going to have drives that you're going to give up. So if you give up an 11-play drive, you're hoping that they somehow bend but don't break and force that team to kick a field goal. But now they're exhausted. You can't come back on the field, go 3 and out, and then punt the ball away. And all of a sudden, that 12-play, 11-play drive that spanned 6 minutes, this defense has to go right back on the field. That's how you get a defense that we think can be good. That's how you get them beat up quick, fast, and in a hurry. So I'm with you, Door Gunner. Thank you for the super chat. Got another super chat. This one is from Double M. Thank you for the super chat, Mark Matthews. Greatly appreciate you, Double M, who writes, "Hey, Louie, am I wrong for saying we shouldn't have picked up Inman? He is 31. We have young wide receivers with game experience and rookies with more speed than Inman. Let the young boys play and let them has been the motto until now." I understand where you're coming from. And again, remember, if not for the injury to Kelvin Harmon, we're probably not even having this discussion. I like Dontrelle Inman. I don't have a problem with the signing because we needed to do something veteran-wise. I felt like after the injury, I read you the list of receivers that we have, and I'll read it to you once more. They may have added a guy or two since the last time I read you this list, but this list doesn't inspire me. I can't speak for you, but Terry McLaurin, Kelvin Harmon, who's going to miss the entire 2020 season, as we know, Steven Sims Jr., Antonio Gandy Golden. Those were my locks. So those 4 were my locks. So now you bring the locks conversation down to 3, okay? Only 3 guys, Terry McLaurin, Steven Sims Jr., Antonio Gandy Golden. All right, so then you get to your serious contenders. These were the guys that I thought would have a chance. I thought there were one spot available. 3 guys battling for one spot. Trey Quinn, Cody Latimer, Isaiah Wright. Well, Cody Latimer is on the NFI list. Don't know when he's getting off of that. Trey Quinn is Trey Quinn. We haven't been overly impressed with him throughout the duration of his career. And Isaiah Wright is a guy that I'm not overly impressed with, but the special teams coach loves him. So he's going to go to bat for Isaiah Wright. And we've seemed to have one guy that comes out of nowhere that makes this team every year. Maybe he's the guy. Then you get to the outsiders, and I put Cam Sims and Darvin Kidsey Jr. as the two guys that have been on the practice squad, who have been on this team in the preseason, have made plays that you've been impressed with at times, but never have done enough to crack this roster. Then there's those guys. Then you get to guys that I felt like were camp bodies. Jordan Vesey, Jester Way, Jonathan Johnson, and Emmanuel Hall. Well, Emmanuel Hall, who I thought really legitimately had a shot if he could have stayed healthy, he tore his ACL. So he's no longer in the mix. So now you're talking about Jordan Vesey, Jester Way, and Jonathan Johnson. Again, this list doesn't get me excited. I'm not saying that none of these guys could emerge. This time last year, you didn't know who Steven Sims Jr. was, you know? And I wasn't giving him, I knew who he was because of film study from watching college tape, but I wasn't impressed with him. I didn't think he was going to make that big of a difference. You know, but then after watching him in the preseason saying, hey, man, this guy continues to flash, which you're not going to get this year. And that's why it's hard for any of the guys that I just named outside of the first 7 names. It's hard for any of those guys to make a true impression. There aren't any preseason games. You know, and that's one of the things that, you know, I listened to a lot of guys who made teams in their careers off of preseason games as undrafted players or late round draft picks. They said, I don't know what I would have done without the preseason. I wouldn't have made the NFL. I wouldn't be here talking to you because I wouldn't have made it in the NFL without the preseason. Some of those guys are going to, unfortunately, be put in positions where if this were a regular offseason with a full training camp and preseason games, would have had a legitimate shot to make this roster. Some of those guys are going to be on the outside looking in because they're not going to get the opportunities that they would have had this been a normal offseason. So I get it. He's 31 years old, and that's not in line with the young man movement that we've been preaching this entire offseason. But, you know, when you lose a young guy at a position where there's already a ton of youth, you know, it's nothing wrong with replacing it with a veteran that's going to come in and fit in. My problem with the other veterans that we had been talking about, these are all alphas that want to come in and demand the football. That's not what we're looking to do. We want a guy that's going to come in, blend, and assimilate, and that's what Dontrelle Inman's going to do. You know, he's a guy that's going to come in here, he's going to work hard, and just help this group, help bolster the depth of this wide receiver group. But to your point, a lot of young guys on this football team, and if any of them emerge, guess what? You can still cut Dontrelle Inman. You know, it's not like he's locked up to make this football team. I think he's going to make the team, but you know, there's not a locked situation here with Dontrelle Inman. I'm pretty sure if they want to get out of the Dontrelle Inman business, they can. So I understand where you're coming from, but I actually like the move. Thank you for the super chat, Double M. Greatly appreciate you. Got another super chat. This one from Dora Gunner. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Dora Gunner. Greatly appreciate you. Dora Gunner writes, can't wait to watch the track race to opposing QBs. I can't wait either. You know what's one of my favorite sacks is outside of a guy just winning immediately and the quarterback not understanding what's about to happen to him. My favorite sack is when it's a jailbreak. You know, both ends win, one guy up the middle wins, or, you know, two guys win up the middle, one coming off the edge, and there's just nowhere to go. And that quarterback just decides to either cower or he gets pulverized in a sea of burgundy and gold jerseys. That's my favorite sack. And it doesn't really matter what team, you know, but I always like to see it when it happens for us. It doesn't happen enough for us, but man, is it fun when 3 guys win on the same play, you know, and it's just a jailbreak. I think we're going to have some situations this year where guys are just flat out whooping the guy in front of them in their ass. And all of a sudden they're free. Another guy's free. And all of a sudden you got 2-3 guys ready to collapse on the quarterback. I can't wait to see it. I just hope that they don't run into each other and hurt themselves trying to get to the QB. But man, is it going to be fun watching Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Matt Ioannidis, Jonathan Allen, Ryan Kerrigan, Ryan Anderson, and the rest of this group, you know, Deron Payne and all of these guys, getting after it. If you can't eat in the environment that they're going to create this year, if you can't eat, if you can't get to 6.5 sacks, if you play in at least, 12, 13, 14 games, I don't know what else to say. If you can't eat in this environment that is about to be cultivated, there's too much talent for guys not. If you are an upper level, so I'm not putting that kind of pressure on non-first rounders. Outside of Matt Ioannidis, I'm not putting that pressure on Ryan Anderson or any of the, or even Kerrigan at his advanced age, even though I think he can eat too. I'm talking about the Jonathan Allens of the world, the Daron Paynes, the Montez Sweats. If you can't eat in this environment, because Chase Young is going to come in here and he's going to command the attention and respect of the opposition, something we haven't had in Washington for years. If you cannot eat in this environment, then you're not hungry enough. You're not starving, and maybe you're not as talented as we thought you were. This environment this year, which is why I'm so bullish, which is why I think the Redskins are going to lead the league in sacks. The reason I am so bullish is because the environment that Chase Young and Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera are going to create up front is going to allow all of the ancillary parts, all of your supporting cast members to eat and play starring roles, okay? Everyone is going to be allowed to eat in this particular situation. There's enough food to go around. Everybody, take out your napkins. You can either place it on your lap or tuck it in your shirt. Get your fork, get your knife, and wait for your plate to show up. And when it does, eat. There's plenty of food to go around. If you want seconds, there's plenty more. Pass the rolls. Can somebody pass me the butter? Thank you. All right, there's plenty more. Do you want some more meat? There's a lot to eat. And if you can't eat in this environment, either you're not hungry enough or maybe you're just not as talented as we thought. Because to me, if you, in this situation, in this season coming up, with all of the people, like the Giants, for instance, their left tackle, even though they drafted their left tackle opted out of the season. Like, you're going to get teams that are at a distinct disadvantage this year. If you can't get to 6.5 sacks or more this season, I don't know if you're ever going to eclipse that mark this year. Because I can say this year, Chase Young coming out of the gate is going to take, I believe this, going to take the league by storm. And because of that, he's going to force teams to overreact to his presence. In doing so, everybody else is going to get one-on-one matchups. You've got to win. He's going to be double teamed, sometimes even triple teamed when you factor in tackle guard or tackle tight end and running back chipping on the way out. You've got to be able to take advantage. If you're Montez Sweat, if you're Jonathan Allen, if you're Matt Ioannidis, you've got to take advantage. You got to take advantage. If you're Ryan Kerrigan, if you're Ryan Anderson, you got to take advantage. If you're Tim Settle, you got to take advantage. If you're Daron Payne, you got to take advantage of this. So, to me, I can't wait to watch the racetrack or the track race, as you put it. But it's going to be a racetrack, and they're going to be in their stance. And when the gun goes off and when the ball is snapped, that racetrack is going to turn into a track race. And I'm hoping that our guys finish first a bunch of times. So, and it doesn't have to be the same guy finishing first. It doesn't. I've never cared. I don't care now. I don't care even more so now. Now that we have Chase Young, I feel like it should be more sacks to go around. It should be a party. Fiesta, fiesta, fiesta. Fiesta, fiesta. Woo! Should be a party, man. Anyway, thank you for the super chat, Door Gunner. Got another super chat. This one is from Mr. Laughing My Head Off. Thank you for the super chat, Mr. Laughing My Head Off. Greatly appreciate you, Mr. Laughing My Head Off. Writes, who in the hell is Jeff Hostetler? He said, how in the hell is Jeff Hostetler a wide receiver coach? It's not Jeff Hostetler, the ex-Giants, Raiders, and Redskins quarterback. It's not Jeff Hostetler. It's Jim Hostler. Okay? So it's not Jim Hostetler, okay? It's not Jeff Hostetler, excuse me. And I had to do a double take initially just to make sure. Obviously, I know what Jeff Hostetler looks like, and I know you're probably being facetious. But it was funny when I saw his name initially. I was like, "What?" I had to do a double take. Like, no way. But you know what's funny is that sometimes you would think because a player played a specific position that he would automatically just coach that position. But it's amazing because sometimes ex DBs are then wide receiver coaches. Why? Because if you're a DB, you also got to know the ins and outs of the receiver position because you got to know how receivers think and how they work and how they operate. And vice versa. You could be a great wide receiver and end up being a defensive backs coach. Generally speaking, though, you want guys that are experienced and know about that particular position. So you don't usually have them cross, over to a different position. But, I remember Raheem Morris in the same year coaching running backs, linebackers, wide receivers, and DBs. I'm like, what is this guy? Jack of all trades? If you know ball, you know ball. And you could coach at just about any position. So anyhow, Jeff Hostetler isn't the wide receiver coach. Jim Hostler is our wide receiver coach. And he's an interesting guy. As we'll get to some coach speak here in a bit. But he is a very interesting guy. Thank you for the super chat, Mr. Laughing my head off. Chilled Dude with another super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Chilled Dude. Greatly appreciate you, Chilled Dude, who writes, MJ Stewart, former second round pick from North Carolina, 2018 from the Bucks, was released. Do you think it would be wise to pick up his rookie contract? Hail. MJ Stewart is an interesting football player. I remember him coming out of North Carolina. I wasn't the biggest fan. I thought the Bucks reached on him in the second round. And by the looks of it, the Bucks agree with me there as he's been cut loose, it looks like. Now, I don't know his situation. I don't know if he was dealing with injuries in Tampa or if he just wasn't playing well, whatever the case may be. I just thought they overdrafted him out of North Carolina. But he's a talented guy. I thought he was more of a slot receiver a nickel corner. I don't know how the Bucks were trying to deploy him. I just know this. We can use all the bodies we can get. I wouldn't be opposed to picking up a young player like an MJ Stewart. Sometimes, and I've talked about this before, it's not always the player. Sometimes it's the fit. And maybe he doesn't fit in the scheme. In Tampa, for instance, a lot of man-to-man, all right? Todd Bowles loves man-to-man coverage. Guess what? A guy like Josh Norman wouldn't fit and play well for Todd Bowles. Why? Because Todd Bowles wants you to man up on the outsides because he wants to blitz. And in order to blitz, you need to be able to lock your guy up one-on-one and run with him. So, it's feast or famine. Todd Bowles comes from that same Rex Ryan mentality, same Bill Belichick mentality of, hey, you guys got to be able to play man-to-man coverage. All right, now you go to Sean McDermott, who comes from the Carolina Panthers tree and their philosophy of, hey, let's play this cover 3. Let's keep everything in front of us. Let's rush 4. Let's not be over-aggressive in blitz. So, different schemes fit different players better. MJ Stewart may not have been better suited for man-to-man coverage. As I told you, I didn't think he was all that great coming into the league out of North Carolina, and I didn't think he was worthy of a second-round selection. And so, maybe he's better off in a cover 3 system. And so I wouldn't have a problem with MJ Stewart coming here, and we can use all the bodies in the secondary that they can throw out there because we really don't know what we have. So I wouldn't be opposed to it. Thank you for the super chat, Chilled Dude. See, I got another super chat here from Chilled Dude, tripling up. Thank you for tripling up, Chilled Dude. Greatly appreciate you, Chilled Dude, who writes, Bucks, and he is, it says Bucks, and he is cornerback. Love autocorrect. Love you, Louie. I don't know what that comment is actually saying. However, I do know who MJ Stewart is. I don't know what happened. Let's see. Maybe you made a mistake on the last one. Yeah. Okay, I see what you were talking about with your last comment. Oh, you're good. I knew exactly what you were talking about, so it's all good. And I know about autocorrect. You got to watch out for that sneaky ass autocorrect. It'll do you in every time if you let it. Got another super chat. This one from Rob U. Thank you for the super chat, Rob U. My guy, Rob U. Double up, doubling up as always. Rob U. writes, Lou, if the D-line is the truth and the O-line surprises, what do you think the best case scenario for the season? Well, obviously it starts up front in the trenches on both sides of the football. So if the D-line is good and the offensive line is good, you got a shot. That's all that means is that you got a shot. Doesn't guarantee you anything. Doesn't mean Dwayne Haskins is going to be all world and a Pro Bowler. It doesn't mean the run game is going to take off and destroy teams. Doesn't mean that the defense is going to be great. It just means that we got a shot. If the defensive line is as advertised, if the offensive line surprises us and plays well, surprises you. I'm not going to speak for. I won't allow you to speak for me. I don't think that the offensive line is that bad. I honestly think that we got question marks, obviously, and if those question marks aren't resolved, yeah, it could get ugly really fast. But I think they're going to be resolved. I think we have a solid option in Wes Martin at left guard. And, left tackle is the scary part. But, I think we've got enough stuff to get by, even if none of those guys are truly the answer. I think we got enough to get by. I think Sadiq Charles is going to be good enough, however. So at the end of the day, I look at this group of offensive linemen, I look at the defensive linemen, and I say, if everybody balls out, it gives us a chance, but it doesn't guarantee us anything. And it, for me, more so than the offensive line exceeding expectations, if the defensive line is as advertised, that's going to give us a better shot than the offensive line going out and just destroying people. The defensive line going out and destroying teams means the opposition isn't scoring a bunch of points. You keep the score down, you give us a shot to win. So, to me, the more important of the two is the defensive line, because as we've seen in this league, you don't have to be a juggernaut offensively to win ball games. Go ask the Tennessee Titans. They weren't an offensive juggernaut last year. Now, there were some times where they scored some points last year. But they're one of those teams that would bog you down, slow down the pace of the game, grind you into oblivion, and you look up and it's 20-17, 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and you're in a dogfight with the Tennessee Titans. And they sneak you 24-20, and there are some teams last year that could play some defense. You saw what the 49ers did to us, pounded us into oblivion in a monsoon. They held us scoreless, beat us 9-0. If you can keep the score down, you can win football games. Pretty ugly, doesn't matter. So I would take the defensive line's dominance over the offensive lines. But if both play really well, maybe you could add a win or two to the total. I told you I've been steadfast on this. I haven't moved. 6-10 is the number that I've been on all offseason long. I'm going to remain at 6-10 until they show me something that changes my mind. So, if the D-line balls out, and 6-10 is with the D-line balling out. Remember that. I haven't moved off of the Redskins or the Washington football team is going to lead the league in sacks. So that assumes that the D-line balls out. So 6-10 is built in with the D-line balling out. So if the offensive line played a little bit better, maybe that adds a victory or two. I don't know. So I guess 8-8 would be best case scenario with both of those lines overachieving per se. Thank you for the super chat, Rob U. I got another super chat. This one from a Likely Phenomenon. What's going on, LP? Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for the super chat. LP writes, Chase or Trey Flowers? Who has more sacks this year, broski? Hashtag One Pride. Hashtag HTTWFT. Well, without a doubt, it's Chase Young. Trey Flowers, to me, never was a big sack guy, even in New England. Thought you overpaid for a guy that was going to come in out. Don't get me wrong. Trey Flowers is a good all-around football player. He's a guy that can stop the run. He can occasionally get after the quarterback, but I think you paid him to be an all-around football player, not a guy that's going to go bag you 15 sacks in a season. You got him to be a dominant run stopper and a guy that can get you anywhere from 7 to 11 sacks in a season. Chase Young has the potential to get you 20 sacks if he is elite and if teams make the mistake of allowing him to single up. He has a chance to destroy the league. I don't think Trey Flowers has that capability. So even in his rookie season, I expect Chase Young to have more sacks than Trey Flowers. But thank you for the super chat, LP. Let's see. Got another super chat. This one is from Martin Matthews. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Double M. Greatly appreciate you, Martin Matthews. Double M writes, hey, Louie, the one thing that Chris Thompson could do well was block. Absolutely. He says, who in your current list of backs can block well enough to help Haskins? Oh, man, that's a great question. AD was never a prolific third down back. Part of the reason why is he's not great in the blitz pickup department, and probably more so not a great wide receiver out of the backfield. But that's never really been his thing. AD can do it, but that's not who he has been. Too small of a sample size with Darius Geis. So I can't really tell you what he brings to the table in terms of his pass pro. Then you start getting into the J.D. McKissicks and Bryce Loves of the world. Honestly, I can't tell you. The one guy that I had any kind of faith in pass protection-wise was Chris Thompson, which was why he was always in on third downs. Jay Gruden knew he was the best at it, and I don't think it was even close. So when I look at this group of backs, it makes me a little nervous because we saw what a guy who doesn't know what to do on pass pro can do to your quarterback. Alex Smith should have never taken that sack versus the Houston Texans. It was a simple blitz pickup that was blown, and you saw the end result. You got to be able to protect, and that's what a lot of times keeps young backs off the field early in their careers is that they don't know exactly who they are responsible for and what they need to do on any given play when they're in as a blocker. So if I had to say, I'd say Geis should be able to do it, but in order to be a prolific third down back, you got to be able to pass protect. So I think Gibson is someone that's going to have to learn how to do it. J.D. McKissick, he's a really small guy. I wouldn't really want him to do it. But then again, Chris Thompson wasn't the biggest guy in the world, and he was exceptional. So, but he was willing to put his body on the line. I don't know if J.D. McKissick is willing to do the same. So I'd have to see it. I'd have to see what everybody brings to the table. Bryce Love, same deal. I'm not really familiar with what he brought to the table. I'd have to go back to my notes from his draft to see what I felt like he brought to the table as a pass protector. But in this group, I think Geis would be the one that I would lean on right now, being that he's played in the league, even albeit for a very, very short period of time, very small sample size. I would still go with Geis as a guy that I feel like could do everything you need to have your back do on third downs, catch it, run it, and, of course, pass protect. So Geis would be the guy that I think would be the leader, and he's a big, stout back. Darius Geis is every bit of 225. I don't know if he's cut down some weight or not, but he's a big guy, 220, 225. So he's big enough to be able to withstand someone coming in as a blitzer and pick him up. Again, is he willing to stick his nose in there and be physical like Chris Thompson was? It's another discussion for another day. But I'd go with Geis, and probably AD would be the two guys right now I'd be most comfortable with. But, these young guys got to learn. Only way for them to learn is to get in there. And first they got to prove it in practice and then get into the game and show that they can do it. So we'll see. That's a great question that we really do not have the answer to at this very moment. Thank you once again for the super chat, Martin Matthews. Got another super chat. This one from Likely Phenomenon. Who's doubling up here. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, LP. Greatly appreciate you. Likely Phenomenon, my man LP, double ups and writes. Julian or Chase, more sacks. There is no one on the Lions roster as currently constructed that I think would have more sacks than Chase Young in his rookie campaign. I mean, that's how highly I think of Chase Young. Now, Julian is more capable of getting to the quarterback. Julian Okwara, we're talking about. He's more adept, more equipped to get to the quarterback than that of Trey Flowers. Now, Trey Flowers is a veteran who has seen a little bit more than a Julian Okwara. And so you've got both the Okwara boys, I might add. Both of them Golden Domers. I'm a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan, so I root for those guys and hope that they do well. But at the end of the day, Chase Young, without a doubt, going to have more sacks than Julian Okwara. Now, I honestly think that Julian Okwara is extremely raw. It still has a little ways to go. But, if he's ever able to develop like his brother did in the league, because his brother came into the league extremely raw as well, but he developed quite nicely. If he's able to develop like his brother did, you could have something there in Julian Okwara, because we saw flashes at Notre Dame, but he never was able to sustain that. So got to stay healthy. He's talented, not Chase Young, however. So thank you for the super chat, LP. Chase Young's got all your guys beat. Yeah, I would go out on a limb. I probably shouldn't do this. But I'll go out on a limb and say that Chase Young will have – I probably shouldn't do that. I'm going to do it anyway because I'm feeling ballsy. And I've been bullish on this defensive line, so why stop now? Chase Young will have more sacks than Julian Okwara and Trey Flowers combined this year. I probably shouldn't have done that. But I did it. Shoot me. Anyway, thank you for the super chat, LP. You probably going to tell me I'm tripping a little bit later on. And I might be. I got another super chat. This one is from Gally Sanford. Gally's the man. We all understand that Gally Sanford's the man. I appreciate you, Gally, man. I don't really know what else to say. I really do appreciate all the contributions, Gally. And Gally writes, do you think Chase can break Dexter Manley's sack record of 18.5? I hope so, man. I would love to see your hype like I did in 1992. Teams feared us, not looked at us like a win. We have to reclaim FedEx Field like RFK was. That's the goal, man. That's what we ultimately want to get back to, is restoring some pride in what it means to have home field advantage. Obviously not going to happen this year, and it's not just us that will have to deal with no real home field advantage. That's around the entire league. But, even when we get fans back in the stands, we've got, and that's why Ron is so important, and that's why I'm so excited for Ron Rivera and what he brings to the table, because I'm really looking forward to seeing Ron Rivera restore. They've got a saying in Detroit, restore the roar. That's a shout out to my man LP. We need to restore the aura of what it means to be, what it once meant to be a Redskin and what it now means to be a Washington football team member. Like, we need to restore what it means. Forget about home field advantage for a second. Just what it means to be a member of this organization. Like at one time, and I know it's hard for a lot of you, and so Gally, I could talk to you for a second, because I know you understand. When you bring up names like Dexter Manley and you talk about 92 and you talk about teams that won prolifically for this organization, I know you understand this. So I can talk to you and any other Redskin fan or any other Washington football team fan that's out there that lived through the glory years, or at least has some kind, because I didn't live through the glory years. I had to relive them. I only got to really fully experience and know what the hell was going on for 91 and what a ride it was. But I wasn't there, and I wasn't really able to process what was going on in 87. I wasn't even around in 83. You know what I'm saying? So, or 82. So 91 is all I can cling to. So what I was getting at, and I said all of that to say this. We want to get back to us being a respectable organization. A lot of Redskins fans Now Washington football team fans don't understand that once upon a time, we were the New England Patriots. I know I keep bringing it up, but you have to understand that that's how we were revered and respected around league circles. We were the smart ones. Joe Gibbs and company were doing things innovatively. They were the ones that everyone was trying to copy, trying to mimic and mirror. They were the organization everyone else was. And, I'm not trying to make it seem like they were the only ones. The 49ers, the Bears, these were all prolific winners in those times. The NFC was way better than the AFC in those days. Denver was really good. They made it to a bunch of Super Bowls, but they didn't win them. The Bills were we'll never see that again. 4 straight trips to the Super Bowl. We'll never see it again. But the 49ers they were the team of the 80s. They won a bunch of Super Bowls. The Redskins were right there with them. For as good as the 49ers were in the 1980s, the Redskins were right there. The Bears were extremely good, but they only won 1 Super Bowl in 85. The 49ers, I think they won 3 Super Bowls, if not 4 in the 80s. I think they won 4 Super Bowls in the 80s. They were the team of the decade, but we were right there. Right there. And so when I look at this team and this organization and how we're viewed from the outside looking in, we're a joke. And so we as fans want to get back to, and I know a lot of you never got to see this organization in that light, so you don't know what you're missing. You just want us to be better, but you don't know what we once were. So you don't know, the crying shame of my youth was that I kept waiting to get back to the feeling of 1991-92 season. I kept waiting. And we got flashes. 96, we got off to the hot start with North. I thought we were going back. Because remember, we weren't that far removed from going 14-2 and hoisting a Lombardi. So in my mind, I'm thinking, we're going back. Here come the glory days again. And that season fell on its face after starting. I think we started 7-1 that year. That season bottomed out 6-1, something like that. There was 99, and I honestly thought, and this is naive me. This is super fan Lou falling for the old banana in the tailpipe. I actually thought that 99 was the beginning of Norv Turner figuring it out. Because he took a team of cast-offs and guys that were just a hodgepodge. Larry Centers, first of all, I love Larry Centers. One of the best receiving fullbacks in NFL history. Loved Larry Centers. He really wasn't a fullback. He was really a running back that played fullback, but whatever. Larry Centers was an addition on that team. He came in, he helped us big time. Albert Connell. Do you remember Albert Connell? 1,000-yard receiver that year for Brad Johnson, who, again, Brad Johnson got him from Minnesota, was really talented, but Brad Johnson wasn't really slinging it for 4K, for 4Gs. He came in here and lit it up. And remember, at that time, we weren't, this organization, we didn't throw for 4,000 yards passing. All right, Michael Westbrook, who I had long labeled a bust as a first-round pick, he had 1,000 yards receiving this year. He was much better at MMA than he ever was football. Stephen Davis came in the game. Remember, his claim to fame up until that 1998-99 season, his claim to fame was getting punched in the face by Michael Westbrook, getting into a fight and getting beat up by Michael Westbrook at practice. Practice? Yeah, practice. He goes for 1,000 yards that year. Like, the offense was just buzzing. Remember Steven Alexander at the tight end position? A lot of you probably have no idea who I'm talking about. We were so good that year, and that team wasn't all that talented. And I thought we had figured it out. I can tell you what, the defense was really good in 99. We had our moments where we gave it up, but the defense was good. And you could see we were building something. And then they decided, Dan Snyder buys the team in that season, as a matter of fact, which is crazy. Buys the team. We go with the 2000 skins. We all know what happens. Bruce Smith, Mark Carrier, the list goes on and on. Deion Sanders, yikes. We bring in all these guys. And and Jeff George, and it was a shit show. And it just turned this whole organization upside down. Norvin ends up getting fired. Then 2 years later, we go with the whole Jetskins. You remember that? With Randy Thomas. What was Chad Morton? Bro, all these damn Jets in here. Lavernius Coles. That was a disaster. Like, I could go on and on and on. Bottom line is, I said all that to say this. I kept waiting and waiting for this organization to go back to what it once was, because that's what I was used to as a kid. Us winning. Even the last year of Gibbs, we still made the playoffs. Like, he left us there, and I said, here we go. We're going to be back. And I've been waiting for over 20 years. I'm still waiting. Just like I told you, that's why I didn't want to get rid of Kirk Cousins, because I've been waiting for a franchise quarterback. And this goes back to the Joe Gibbs days, 1.0. We never had a franchise quarterback. Joe T was the closest thing we ever had to a franchise quarterback. Mark Rippon was never a franchise quarterback, even though we tried to make him into one. He was never a franchise. He had one good year for us. He went nuts in 91. And then decided he wanted to hold out for a contract the year after that. Never was the same quarterback. Doesn't matter. I said, I've been in the quarterback wilderness for far too long. I just want a guy I can call my own. We had that guy. We let him leave. And you say what you want about Kirk, but we had one. We let him go. Now we hope we have another one. Please let us have one here in Dwayne Haskins. Anyhow, to get back to Gally Sanford's super chat, I do think that Chase Young is capable of breaking. The first guy that we've had since Dexter Manley to have that kind of talent. The first guy we've had since Manley that I thought could have a chance to break that record. That record has stood for far too long. It's time for someone to tear it down, and I think Chase Young is exactly the guy. It might be Montez Sweat, for all we know. But we've got the talent. One thing's for sure, somebody on this team is talented enough to do that. I think it's Chase Young, but it could be Montez Sweat. I could care less. We got the talent. Let's go make it happen. And as far as RFK and FedEx Field, look, you win and they will come. We all remember 2012. FedEx Field was electric in 2012. All right. I remember getting goosebumps watching the Giants game on Monday Night Football. And it was a nail biter. Close game. We pulled it out late. I remember watching the Dallas Cowboys game. That was the one that did it for me. You know, the win and you're in. Winner takes all division. 2012, week 17 game versus the Cowboys. Rob Jackson, interception of Tony Romo. We all remember Alfred Morris, 30 carries, 200 yards rushing. We all remember the game, just like it was yesterday. FedEx Field was rocking. And FedEx Field is a dump. Call it what it is. Call a spade a spade. It's a dump. That's why we need a new stadium. It's poorly placed. It's not well run. It doesn't have new facilities. It's old. It's old. It was rushed. We need a new stadium. You win football games and they will come. Trust me. Okay? 2012 is a great example of that. So thank you for the super chat, Gally Sanford. Really, really appreciate you. All the contributions, everything that you do. Really appreciate you, Gally Sanford. Thank you so much. Got another super chat. This one is from Josh Kirby. Thank you for the super chat, Josh Kirby. Greatly appreciate you, Josh Kirby. My man Josh writes, love the content, Louie T. Keep doing what you're doing. Really appreciate your hard work. Thank you, Josh. Thank you so much. Thank you for supporting and continuing to bless the brand with your contribution. Josh also writes, what were your initial thoughts when you heard Josh Doctson had opted out? I actually had a grin. One of those. I saw it on socials. I said, and I just kept going. I didn't even hit because normally when I see something that piques my interest, I want to know what people are saying in the comment section. You know, I'm a lurker. So, excuse me. I want to go read what everybody has to say. And I expected people to just be killing Josh Doctson. I didn't even go down there because I knew they were just going to obliterate him. They were going to kill him in the comment section. And I've always said this. I don't think he loves football. So this was an easy, and I don't know, he could have underlying conditions. He could have family members at home that he's concerned about. I don't know his situation, and I don't judge anybody that decides they want to opt out. And so who am I to judge? And I'm not going to. I could care less about anybody who decides to opt out. That's your prerogative. You have the right to do so. By all means, evoke that right. In the case of a Josh Doctson, though, he's on his last legs. So, and again, health trumps everything else. So if you got underlying conditions that, would really exacerbate under COVID-19, don't put yourself out there. But think about this. Josh Doctson is on his last legs. Like, how many teams has he been on in his brief NFL career? He's with the Redskins. He was with the Vikings. Didn't do anything there. Now he's with the Jets. This could have been it for him. This could be it for him. And to decide to not play, and again, I don't know the reasoning behind why he opted out. Again, if this is based off of, health concerns, please do the right thing, do the smart thing, because at the end of the day, it's a game. But if this is him just opting out because he doesn't love football and he just, any reason is a good reason to not play and still get a little bit of bread, I've always said I don't think he loves football. I've always felt that way about Josh Doctson. After his first year here and hearing stories about him being homesick and, and learning the story about him transferring back to TCU because he wanted to be closer to home, I've always contended that he doesn't love football. And that's okay. There's a lot of guys that don't love football. But that's the first thing that popped into my head. My first reaction, Josh Doctson opting out. I said, I don't know the reasoning why, but he didn't want to play anyway. That's what I said. He wants to check. He doesn't necessarily care about playing. But again, I don't know his situation, and I'm not one to talk and judge. Thank you for the super chat, Josh Kirby. I am going to stop right here. I've got more super chats, so we're going to come back to these super chats. Let's see. I think I got 3 or 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4 super chats. So I am going to come back to those super chats. But what I want to do right now is take the time to go through my 5 biggest takeaways of camp. So I want to get to that quickly. And then later on in the show, we'll double back. We'll get to coach speak. But after these 5 big takeaways, or the 5 biggest training camp storylines, we'll come back to the super chats, and then we'll finish up the program with the coach speak. So let's go to the 5 biggest takeaways from camp. And so for me, we start at number 5. Which targets will emerge for Dwayne Haskins? And we're not specifically talking wide receivers here either, folks. It's not just wide receivers. Tight ends also have to be considered in that discussion. Like, who's going to step up for Dwayne? We know about Terry, but he's going to need help. He needs a road dog. He needs a tag team partner. All right, he's Batman. Who's Robin? Is there even one on the roster? We don't know. Somebody's got to emerge. We think Steven Sims is that guy, but are we 100% certain about that? No, we're not. Who's going to be the alpha across? If Steven Sims is our slot winner, who's the guy opposite of Terry McLaurin on the outside? Is that guy Antonio Gandy Golden, the Gandy man? Is that guy going to be Dontrelle Inman for a season? Is that guy going to be somebody else that we're not even thinking about? Hard to say right now, but we need guys to step up for Dwayne. All right, that was one of the criticisms of this roster. Not enough weapons. The Redskins didn't do enough for Dwayne in the offseason. They didn't surround him with enough targets. Look at what the Broncos did for Drew Lock, another second-year quarterback. The Redskins didn't do enough to help Dwayne Haskins out. I vehemently disagreed because I thought we added Antonio Gandy Golden, the Gandy man. And we added another Antonio and Antonio Gibson, who's also going to catch the football. I thought where we failed Dwayne was we didn't add an adequate option at tight end. Not for a lack of trying. They went after the ex-Atlanta Falcons tight end, Austin Hooper. And this wasn't a deep tight end draft class. We've already discussed that. So I wasn't mad at them for not reaching for a tight end. At the end of the day, something has to give. We need guys to step up. Who are those guys going to be? I think that's a big storyline to watch during training camp is which targets, and we're not just talking wide receivers, we're also talking tight ends, which targets are going to emerge for Dwayne Haskins in the 2020 season and possibly beyond. So that's number 5. As you get to number 4 on the list, it's injury watch. How can it not be injury watch? How can that not be a part of your 5 biggest storylines? When you talk about this team, for me, every year we say the same thing. And as my barber eloquently puts it, every year we have the same discussion about this team. Every year. Can we stay healthy, please? And so I'm not going to talk about us staying healthy this year. That's not what I'm talking about when I refer to injury watch. What I'm referring to is the guys coming off of injury. Can we rely on these players to produce for us in 2020? I'm talking about the Reuben Fosters of the world. I'm talking about Bryce Love. I'm talking about Darius Geis. I'm talking about Thaddeus Moss. And even to a much lesser degree, and I don't want to see him on the field, even an Alex Smith, who has been he's been as much about the conversation as any player on this roster. Alex Smith has dominated a lot of the early training camp discussions, how well he's looked, even though he hasn't been cleared for play yet. He hasn't been medically cleared by the Redskins training staff, medical staff, excuse me. He is a guy that is also on injury watch. But, Reuben Foster is a guy that they say is doing all the right things, taking a lot of mental notes, showing leadership in the locker room. I love to hear it. But at the end of the day, you want to see what he's able to provide on the field if he can stay healthy. Bryce Love and Darius Geis have both been medically cleared, so those guys are on the field. It's good. I saw a still shot of Bryce Love catching the football, turning up the sidelines, and it was just good to see him out there on the field. It's been a long time since we've seen Bryce Love in a Washington football team uniform, and so just to see him out there running around, that was a sight for sore eyes. Darius Geis also medically cleared. Want him to stay healthy. That's always been our thing for him. Guys, uber talented. Think we got to steal in the second round. Prove it. Stay healthy and dominate. And Thaddeus Moss went undrafted. Why? Because he was injured. Because he got hurt. Well, because he elected to have surgery at the end of the college football season, right before the combine, and teams couldn't medically clear him. And the teams, first of all, not a great athlete. They knew that. He didn't get to dispel any of that at the combine. And so without having a real pro day, without having the ability to show that, hey, I'm a little bit faster or this, that, and the third, teams went off of his tape. He wasn't electric on tape, and he didn't get drafted. Well, we picked him up, and I'm happy that we did. But this is a guy that has to prove himself. So injury watch is my number 4. I think that's something that we have to pay close attention to. You get to number 3, and for me, it's the left tackle battle. In my mind, without left tackle being solidified, you can't have the kind of offensive explosion that we hope that this team is capable of. If you've got issues at left tackle, it's going to hamper you in so many ways. You're going to have to do a lot of creative things to counteract. Look, teams have found ways around faulty tackle play. It's not ideal, however. So it's a battle right now between 3 players, all of them having 2 first names. You know how I feel about that. Never trust a man. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. However, we're going to have to trust one of them. All right, we don't have a choice, okay? We don't have a choice. We got to trust one of these guys, and it's going to be between Sadiq Charles, third-round pick out of LSU, Jaron Christian, out of Louisville, a second-round pick of 3-4 years ago? Feels like about 4 years ago. And Cornelius Lucas, who the Redskins signed as a free agent from the Chicago Bears, Detroit Lions, has played some quality snaps for both of those teams at either tackle position. He's a swing tackle. I think this is more of a 2-man race, however, Sadiq Charles and Jaron Christian. At the end of the day, if Jaron Christian beats him out, okay, let's see what you got. But to me, Sadiq Charles, the only way he doesn't win this job is because, and I heard Ron Rivera speak about this, that Sadiq Charles has to pick up the verbiage. That's something that's going to hamper him because of the way camp has been set up and not having OTAs in the offseason. But look, they still did a lot of Zoom calls and things like that, and he was able to work on the verbiage there. But being able to put that stuff into practice on the field, being able to play without having to think is what Sadiq Charles is going to have to do and prove to the staff in order to get that job. But I've said this all along. It's his battle to win. He doesn't have the job, so it's not his to lose, but it's his to win, meaning he's going to have the first crack at being the starting left tackle. Now, if he's not able to solidify that, that's when you see a guy like Jaron Christian have a chance to prove once and for all that he isn't a bust and that he belongs in this league. As a starting caliber tackle right now, to me, he's nothing more than a swing option as a backup. So we'll see what happens there. But that's my number 3 camp storyline. As we get to number 2, it's the impact of Jack Del Rio and Chase Young. We've talked all along about how this defense is supposed to be so much better, vastly improved. Why do we feel so strongly? I know some of you have been on the defense is going to be better train for the last 3 years. Well, with Greg Mckissick, similar to how I kind of feel about this organization, we can never really be as good as we really hope to be because Daniel Snyder owns the team. I think Daniel Snyder to me is the equivalent of a bottleneck. There's only so much you can do with him as owner. Now, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope Ron Rivera is the guy that proves me to be wrong. However, I feel like Daniel Snyder's a bottleneck. There's only so much you can cap out at in terms of success with Daniel Snyder owning your football team. Same could be said with all of the coordinators that we were trouncing around and prancing around this organization under Jay Gruden's tenure here, whether it was Joe Barry or Greg Mckissick. Those guys were bottlenecks. They were hindrances. Those guys were deterrents. They weren't going to maximize talent. They were going to stunt its growth. All right. They weren't going to cultivate talent. They were going to stunt it. So to me, the first step was getting a credible defensive mind, a defensive coordinator that could maximize talent. Enter in Jack Del Rio. So check. The next thing was getting a disruptive, game-changing force on your defense. And really, I could care what level it came on. I could care less, but I would prefer it to be as a defensive end / pass rusher. Check in Chase Young. So now you have all of the ingredients necessary to take what was a bottom half to, bottom third to, bottom of the league. You could say bottom half, but that's too much credit. Bottom half means you're somewhere from 17 to 32. Bottom fourth means you're somewhere from 24 to 32. No, we were somewhere from 29 to 32 every year defensively. In a lot of years, we were 32nd or 31st or 30th. So we were horrible defensively. Enter in Jack Del Rio and Chase Young, the two guys that we think are capable of changing the face of the game defensively for this team. Del Rio on the sidelines, Chase Young on the field. What's the impact of these guys? Can we start to feel that as camp progressives? I've heard nothing but good things about Chase Young and his work ethic and how he doesn't look like a rookie. But actions speak louder than words. We're going to see when he gets onto the field. And for all of the, nonsense of Jack Del Rio on socials and this, that, and the third, we know what this guy is capable of as a defensive coordinator. Looking forward to seeing what kind of impact those two come in and have, not immediately, but immediately on this defense that we think has all the talent up front to be a disruptive force. And finally, my number one biggest camp storyline is Ron's plan. Ron's plan. Ron Rivera has a very enviable task in front of him. It's one that not a lot of coaches wanted to take on, and especially after the offseason he's just endured taking the job. Not a lot of guys really envy Ron Rivera in the position he's in, but Ron Rivera has said this all along, and this is why I love this guy. I love him for this position and think that we got the best guy possible in the position of head coach of the Washington football team. He's said all along, I chose this job. I had other opportunities. I could have waited out for the Cowboys job or the Giants job or the Browns job. I wanted this job. I wanted the challenge of restoring a once prideful and proud organization back to its roots and back to what it once was, its glory days. I want the task of doing that. I know that this is going to be a lot of work and it's going to require a culture change. I understand that this is not an overnight project. I understand that, and he talks about the military and how in the military, it takes 3 to 4 years to change a culture. And that's what he's looking to do if he gets the amount of time to do it here. He understands that this is not a quick fix. And the thing I love is that he has experience. So we don't have to go through Ron Rivera trying to figure it out as a first-time head coach in this league. He's been on a reclamation project before in Carolina when he was a first-time head coach back in 2011 in similar circumstances where there was a lockout and he didn't have access to the players. And there was a young quarterback on the roster, albeit a rookie quarterback, but second-year rookie, was all the same. Dwayne didn't really start much of last season, so it's a lot of the same situation. It's an organization that needs an overhaul, and they need a leader, and they need someone to take them in the direction that they want to go, and they've been starving for someone to lead them. We've got a bunch of foot soldiers, a bunch of guys that are dying to follow somebody, but they haven't had that guy. Enter in Ron Rivera. And so for me, Ron's plan is the biggest thing of this offseason and of this training camp. It's the biggest storyline because you can have all the players you want. If you don't have the right guy in place, it's hard to maximize the talent that you have. And it's hard to get guys to follow someone if they don't believe in him. And the thing that I keep hearing people echo about Ron Rivera is his sincerity, but also his straightforwardness. I've heard ex-players talk about the one thing that they covet the most in a coach, and that's the ability to know where they stand. A guy that's going to tell me where I am and what I have to do and where I stand. Nobody likes to be left in the dark, especially these athletes who are all alphas for the most part in these locker rooms. They want to know where they stand. They want to know, all right, look, tell me what to do. I'll go do it. They need a leader. Ron Rivera is the exact guy at the exact right time for this football team. And with that being said, Ron's plan is in full gear now. It's in full motion. And I just want to see it executed to the highest of his ability. And I think right now, more so than any time in this franchise's history, we need a leader. We need someone to come in here and turn this thing around. This organization, and even under Ron's watch, even though he had nothing to do, this is remnants from the old regime. He still had to deal with dysfunction. He still had to deal with a name change. He had to deal with the sexual assault story out in the Washington Post. He still had to deal with a whole bunch of nonsense and tomfoolery. And he's done it in stride, and he hasn't missed a beat. He had to deal with Black Lives Matter and everything that is going on, COVID-19, and this guy is ready. And so now I want to see Ron's plan actually unfold, a culture be changed, and this team move in the right direction. And so to me, that's the biggest storyline in training camp for 2020. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that. So make sure that you leave that in the comment section if you get a chance, either tonight or after this video is done. You come back and you drop me a comment so I can read your 5 biggest camp storylines for the 2020 Washington football team training camp. All right, that being said, let's get back to the super chats. And I got one here from Likely Phenomenon, my man LP tripling up. Appreciate you tripling up, LP. Greatly appreciate my man Likely Phenomenon, who writes, your thoughts on DeAndre Swift and who has more yards, him or Kerryon Johnson? DeAndre Swift is a dog. I love DeAndre Swift. I was a huge Kerryon Johnson fan, but his issue has been health. He hasn't been able to stay healthy in Detroit. So for me, I think it's going to be DeAndre Swift. They spent an early second round draft pick on DeAndre Swift because I think they value what he brings to the table more than what Kerryon Johnson brings to the table. Not to say that Kerryon Johnson can't catch it out of the backfield, but the Lions have longed for a replacement to what was the ex-Golden Domer that played for you guys? Theo Riddick, who could catch it. Matthew Stafford loved him some Theo Riddick out of the backfield, one of the best pass-catching backs when he was at his peak in Detroit. But you get the best of both worlds with DeAndre Swift because not only can he catch it out of the backfield, he's also a dynamic runner with the football in between tackles and outside. So I just think DeAndre Swift is a perfect fit for what the Lions want to do schematically with their backs. And so to me, DeAndre Swift is the guy that's going to get the Lions share of the carries. You see what I did there with that, LP? Anyhow, thank you for the super chat. Likely phenomenon. Got another one from LP. I knew you were going to come back and get me for that. I knew you were going to come back and get me. I was ready for it. I was sitting on that fastball. But thank you for the fourth super chat of the night from LP. I really appreciate it. LP writes, "You're tripping hard, son. Both of them? Are you Chase drunk?" And I love the emoji you used there. LOL, he writes. I might have been a little Chase drunk, but that's definitely a drink I'm willing to get drunk off of, is the Chase Young punch. I think that guy is extraordinary. You know, I don't know if I've seen a guy, and Bosa was really good, but you know, Chase Young has the numbers to back it up. There was only 1 year of Nick Bosa really balling out at Ohio State. He was looking like he was about to tear it up, you know, in 2019 before he got injured and ultimately left school and entered the draft, or 2018. But I think Chase Young has a chance to come in and Aldon Smith it this year, like come out of the gates, guns a-blazing and really hurt some teams. So, yeah, I might be tripping, but I'm doubling down on my man Chase Young and the rest of this defensive line. And it won't just be Chase. He'll eat, but other guys will eat, and those other guys will attract attention too, which will allow Chase to get his fair share of one-on-one matchups as well. So I like the situation, man. I knew you were going to come after me, though. And I probably deserved it. I got another super chat here from Farrah Cody. Thank you for the super chat, Farrah Cody. Greatly appreciate you, Farrah Cody, who writes, "Chase is a rookie. LOL. Y'all expecting too much out of a rookie. Yeah, he's talented, but he's still a rookie who hasn't played a snap." Yeah, that's fine. Nick Bosa was a rookie. Joey Bosa was a rookie as well. Those guys came in, and Joey Bosa missed some time with an injury. Came in. Nick Bosa had a strain of his calf in camp his rookie season. Still came out and balled. Like, you can have an impact as a rookie in this league. It's allowed, okay? And when you're the number 2 pick in the draft, you're allowed to put expectations on these guys' shoulders, okay? Chase Young getting a fat-ass contract. Why? Because this guy is the real deal. Yeah. He hasn't played a snap in this league. Yeah, we're putting a ton of expectations on his shoulders. Ask Chase Young, I bet you he wouldn't have it any other way. We're expecting a lot because he's that good. And a wise man once told me, to whom much is given, much is expected, okay? With great talent comes great expectations, all right? So this man has been blessed with all of this talent. 6'5", 264 pounds, of chiseled muscle that can get up the field in a blur, can use strength to, speed to power, can use inside technique, and he's still scratching the surface with his technical usage in terms of spins and other things he can bring to the table. This guy's got the potential to be dominant. I watched him in college. I think it translates to the NFL. I'm not going to back off. I understand what you're saying, but guess what? I've seen enough and I've watched enough football. I know talent when I see it. And I'm not always right. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm batting 1,000. There are plenty of guys in the draft that I thought had tons of talent and didn't come in the league and do squat. However, those guys didn't look like Chase Young. And it's rare that you get these kinds of guys wrong. Everyone thought Von Miller was going to be a stud. He was a stud. All right, these guys generally in the top 5 that are pass rushers, it's rare you get these ones wrong. You know, there are positions you can get wrong, like running back, like Trent Richardson. And I did not think he was. First of all, I didn't think he was worthy of a first-round pick, let alone a top 5 pick. I thought he was way overdrafted, but that's nor here nor there. Bottom line is, I hear what you're saying. I'm not backing off. I think Chase Young is a stud, and I think he's going to prove it very early on. He's going to make a believer out of you very quickly. Very quickly, Cody. Very quickly. I believe that firmly. We'll see what happens. But thank you for the super chat, Farrah, Cody. Got another super chat. This one is from Martin Matthews. Thank you for the super chat, Martin Matthews. Greatly appreciate you, Martin Matthews. Thank you doubled up right now. So, double up, double up. Matter of fact, you tripled up. I'm pretty sure that this is your 3rd time. I'm going to go. This is you tripling up because you're the man. Appreciate you, double M. Martin Matthews writes, if it's not, you doubled up. Either way, Martin Matthews writes, hey, Louie, I am with you on the team competing for sacks with our starting front line and Kerrigan. But wait, sleeper alert, Nate Orchard will be a contributor. And I didn't even bring him up. So that's another guy. And I told you, and when I started reeling off the names, I said there's probably somebody that I'm forgetting about, whether it's James Smith-Williams or it's Jordan Brailford or Nate Orchard, who probably it should be ahead of James Smith-Williams and Jordan Brailford in the pecking order, because Nate Orchard has shown that he can get it done at times in this league. So you might be right. Nate Orchard might be a guy that can contribute. And so this team we're deep there, man. Running back on the offensive side of football and defensive line on the defensive side of the football. There's no position deeper than the defensive line on this football team. You know, a defensive tackle, even with Caleb Brantley opting out, we're still ridiculously deep on the defensive line, on the interior, and God knows we got pass rushers for days. So I feel really good about the depth that we have on the defensive line. And Nate Orchard could be a guy that we definitely are sleeping on. That's definitely sleeper alert status. Nate Orchard is, because I'm not counting Nate Orchard in terms of, I'm not counting on him for real production. When you start talking about those numbers, that sack total that I was talking about that's going to push 60 plus. I wasn't building into that, 5.5 Nate Orchard sacks. Okay. So if Nate Orchard gives us something, I will be pleasantly surprised. As Chilled Dude brought up earlier, I think it was Chilled Dude who said, who would be somebody that would, pleasantly surprise me. A guy like Nate Orchard would be a pleasant surprise for me, because that's not a guy that I'm counting on. With all the talent, the abundance of riches, an embarrassment of riches that we have, Nate Orchard is a guy that is an afterthought on this roster right now. You get 6 deep before you even think of bringing up Nate Orchard's name. You got Montez Sweat, you got Chase Young, you got Ryan Kerrigan, you got Ryan Anderson. And so 5 deep before you even think about, Nate Orchard. So we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. But thank you for the super chat. See if we got any more super chats. I think we do have a few more. Got a super chat here from, looks like it's from Gally Sanford. Once again, I can't see you at this point, Gally, man. Can't see you. You here, man. I really appreciate you, Gally Sanford. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the support that you've shown and continue to show, man. You are definitely the real MVP, Gally Sanford, who writes, Louie, got a great idea. Why not get the family here to go to a game this year? Everyone who can and rock Louie t-shirts, I'm down. Hit me up. Wifey can come too. I'm down. Obviously, we can't do it this year. There is no game, but eventually I'm going to actually come out of my house. I'm a hermit, man. I'm in my shell right now. But, one of my big goals for this year was to get out of the house. And I wanted to go to the combine. I wanted to go to the draft. I wanted to go to some games, things of that nature. And COVID shut all of that down, And so eventually I'm going to get out of the house. We're going to do some big things with this brand moving forward. And I definitely can't wait to meet a lot of you guys out and gals out there and kick it with y'all, man, because we're all family, and so we're looking forward to chopping it up with you guys in the near future. So I really appreciate you, Gally Sanford, man. Thank you so much for the support and your 5th super chat of the night. Can't see you, bruh. Can't see you at all. Got another super chat. This one is from JP, my man, John Perez. Thank you for the super chat. John writes, been a while since I was on these streams. I want nothing more than to see Haskins prove the doubters wrong and for Geist to stay healthy. That'd be great. Haskins, he definitely has a chip on his shoulder, as he should. A lot of people are still disrespecting him to this day. And you know what? Good. I love it. I love when guys have a chip on their shoulder. I like when guys feel disrespected, and it gives them that extra added motivation to go out and prove people wrong. Don't think for one second that all of the naysayers and doubters and all the people that talked about Haskins like a dog all last season and into this offseason didn't motivate him to go out and drop 10, 15 pounds and get into some of the best shape of his life, adult life. Like, don't fool yourself for one second. Every day he woke up, he probably thought about, okay, they said I couldn't do this. They said I can't do that. They don't think I'm going to be good enough to do this or do that. And I remember I once did that. That was once my motivation, so you be amazed at how, comments and things like that can drive a person. And so I hope that he proves, for all of our sakes, he proves that he's the guy once and for all in Washington, and we can move forward with him as our franchise quarterback and no longer have to search and have to rummage through the forest of the wilderness of quarterback wilderness, which we've been in for far too long, far too many years. So I'm with you on that, JP, that we really need him to step up. And guys, I want him to stay healthy because I just want to see what he can do. Like, we've seen flashes, and I thought Randy Jordan put it very eloquently with Darius Geis. He's shown us some appetizers. He's shown us appetizers, man. Some hors d'oeuvres per se, but he said appetizers. We want the whole entree. We want to see the whole thing. We want the whole meal. He's teased us. And I think Randy Jordan was very apt in putting it that way. I just want the whole entree with Darius Geis. And maybe the entree isn't as good as I thought, but at least let me see it. I just want to taste it. Is it as good as we think it could be? Or, what is it? Like, I just need it. And so I'm with you. I would like to see guys stay healthy this year. That'd be great. Got another super chat. This one is from DCJ. Thank you for the super chat, DCJ. Greatly appreciate you. DCJ writes, Lord knows, please don't put Alex on the field. Agree? I'm good on Alex Smith. Don't need to see him on the field in any capacity whatsoever. They've showered him with praises on how he's been able to get back and he's moving well and he's exceeded their expectations. That's all well and fine and good and all of that good jazz. But at the end of the day, I don't want to see Alex Smith on the field. I don't. I'm good. I'll pass on that. I've said that a million times. I'll continue to echo that. But as I've also said, who am I and who are we to tell him what he should or shouldn't do and what's best for him? If he wants to play, he has that right to do so. I don't want to see him on the field at all. And I'll take it a step further. I just want Dwayne to have an opportunity to take the bull by the horns and just absolutely crush it and never have to look back. So I don't want anybody stunting Dwayne's growth. And so at this point, Alex Smith is more of a hindrance than he is a help if he's playing and there's nothing wrong with Dwayne. So in my mind's eye, I just want Dwayne to play. But I think, honestly speaking, Dwayne is the better option. Alex Smith, he knows the offense. Even if he's never been in this offense, he's played in enough football. He's been in enough offenses that he's a smart guy to get this offense down pat. He probably has the offense already down to a science. So from a mental standpoint, Alex Smith is probably ahead of Dwayne. But as Ron Rivera said, Dwayne's not that far behind. He's not that far behind. And that, to me, was the biggest gap. I think Dwayne's got Alex in every other aspect. And now, the one part that we thought Dwayne probably wouldn't be able to take Alex was athleticism. Not that sure about that anymore. After the gruesome leg injury and now Dwayne dropping the weight. And we found out firsthand that Dwayne was way more athletic than we gave him credit for coming into the league. Now he dropped some more weight. He might be a better athlete than Alex Smith at this juncture of Alex Smith's career and at his age. So you factor in that he's got a bigger arm. He's got a quicker release than Alex Smith. He is more mobile. He's younger. Everything that they're looking for. He's willing to take more risks, but also still take care of the football. And that's something that Ken Zampese, the quarterback's coach, talked about. And we'll talk about that when we talk about all of the different coaches on the Coach Speak segment later on in the show. So, I don't want to see Alex Smith. To answer your question, no, I don't want to see Alex Smith on the field in any capacity. I don't mind him being on the roster. I just don't want him being on the field. But, we'll see what happens. Thank you for the super chat, DCJ. Totally agree with you. DCJ with another super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, DCJ. Thank you for the super chat. DCJ writes, I got a sneaky feeling like how number 17 kept under wraps. Gibson could be full-time wide receiver, but money reasons could keep him listed as a running back. Thoughts? Very, very feasible. I told you guys that from the jump, that the reason you take one of these players that is multifaceted, that can do a lot of things in college, and they play quarterback, running back, wide receiver, they did all these things, and they were so dynamic, and you don't know where to place them. The reason you put them at running back is for monetary reasons and monetary gains and benefit. Because when that player is up, if he's as advertised, if he's as good as you think he's going to be, and you want to keep him, you don't have to pay a running back as much as you pay a wide receiver. Just think of it from a franchise tag perspective. If you franchise tag a receiver versus franchise tagging a running back, you can franchise tag a running back and it doesn't break the bank. The Titans just did it with Derrick Henry. And look what they ultimately ended up paying him in terms of a long-term deal. Not that much money considering what they value him as and what he did down the stretch, essentially putting the team on his back. Now you look at the wide receiver position and what it costs to franchise tag one of them, and you look at what the Bengals were doing with AJ Green and how much it cost them and how much, that we just saw Amari Cooper get from the Dallas Cowboys, and that number is only going to rise. It's a much different scope in terms of pay. So you could be right. But when you listen to the coaches talk about what room he has been in and where he's been getting the most work, it sounds like he's still spending the bulk of his time in the running back room, but he's also going to spend some time with the wide receivers. I don't think he's going to be a wide receiver full time, as you suggested. However, it wouldn't shock me if he's used more, and I said this already, it wouldn't shock me if he's used more as a wide receiver than he is a running back, especially if Darius Geis takes off and Bryce Love takes off. It wouldn't shock me if they said, you know what? He's better suited just being on the field in some capacity, whether that's at running back or at receiver, or if he starts to play off at running back and then motions out to receiver. He could ultimately be used more as a wideout than a running back, but I think for the time being, they're going to use him as a running back, and really, he's going to be a utility guy. He's going to be all over the football field. So thank you for the super chat, DCJ. Got another super chat. This one is from Joe Rockhead J. Thank you for the super chat, Joe Rockhead J. Greatly appreciate you. Joe Rockhead writes, hey, bro, happy, very belated. The talent is on the rise, but the coaching will be the biggest difference. I think you are absolutely right. There were teams in the past that weren't that talented, but had they been coached better, I think there would have been better results. I think back to the 8-7-1 year back in 2016. Where we should have made the playoffs. And if D-Hop makes a couple of kicks that season, most notably the one over in London, that was the backbreaker versus the Bengals. But
Had we beat the Lions, that year that Kirk runs the bootleg, the read option for a touchdown late to give us a lead, and then the defense gives it up to Stafford in like less than 40 seconds as they score a touchdown and beat us. That was a season that, with better coaching, maybe you win that. Maybe you make the playoffs that year. Maybe you're 9-7 instead of 8-7 or 9-7-1, or maybe you're 10-6 instead of 8-7-1 and missing the postseason. The following year, we were a solid team. Injuries decimated us, but at the end of the day, I like you, believe that coaching is going to be the biggest difference. That's why my number 2 had Jack Del Rio included, because, and that's why I was so anxious to hear from these coaches. And we're going to get to coach speak here in a bit. But I think the coaching staff is going to be huge. I think there have been a lot of guys undeveloped, a lot of talented guys that haven't really produced at the level they're capable of, because coaching is so pivotal in this sport, more so than any other sport. In baseball, once you get to the majors, you may tweak a thing here or there. You may get into a little bit of a funk, and maybe your hitting coach can help you get out of it. They may sit you down, watch a little bit of film with you, show you what you're doing. Maybe the front side is flying open a little too soon. You're a little too anxious. Maybe you need to be a little bit more patient with your back leg. Little tweaks here and there, but you play baseball, you play baseball. Basketball, look, if you make it to the NBA and you're playing ball, it's not much coaches are going to be able to teach you. You're who you are. You're going to work on your game in the offseason, but they're not really going to help you. Coaching is the most pivotal in football because, as I mentioned, fit is everything. And when these guys come from the college ranks, they need to be developed. You're not getting a finished product. Like in the NBA, a lot of times, a guy's body may not be developed, and you may ultimately not be getting a finished product. Like he may develop a better jumper and like a Ben Simmons, for instance. Like he needs to develop a better jumper, or Giannis Antetokounmpo. He came in the league, he couldn't shoot. He's now shooting threes. Like you're going to develop those things on your own with your work habits in the offseason. You're going to get better. However, in the NFL, you come into the league and you're like a slab of clay. You need and there are certain guys that come in and they're ready to go right out of the packaging. But more guys than not come in and need work. They need work on the fundamentals. They need to be shown how to do it the right way. And scheme sometimes is massive for a lot of these players. And if you're not coaching them up right, you're not going to get the most out of these players. There's a reason that some of the best pass rushers over the last 15 years or so, they had some of their most productive years under Jack Del Rio. And I'm not saying that he's directly responsible for that, but it's not a coincidence that Romeo Crennel goes somewhere and the defense gets better. It's not a coincidence that Jack Del Rio goes somewhere and the defense gets better. It's not a coincidence that Wade Phillips shows somewhere and the defense gets better. These guys know what they're doing. And the same thing for these positional coaches. They're just as important as the coordinators. These are the guys that are in these meetings that are helping these guys, or watching film with these guys, or teaching these guys at a very, very intimate level, more so than the head coach who's overseeing everything, more so than the coordinators who are an extension of the head coach and overseeing the entire defense or the entire offense. These guys are in meetings with just these 8 players or just these 5 players, and they've got their hands on them. So it's important that your offensive line coach is very good. To me, of all your position coaches, your offensive line coach probably needs to be the best of that group. Your wide receivers coach needs to be good. Your defensive backs coach needs to be able to teach, So I think coaching is going to be massive, as you brought up, Joe Rockhead J. I really believe that, the talent is on the rise. We're not where we want to be, as you mentioned, but coaching is going to take the talent that we already do have, and they're going to make them really special. And that's what I'm excited to see. And so I agree with you there. Thank you for the super chat, Joe Rockhead J. Got another super chat. This one is from the Juice Alert. Thank you for the super chat, Juice Alert. Greatly appreciate you. Juice Alert writes, Dwayne Haskins reminds me of Big Ben. I think he's a future top 10 quarterback, has the arm talent, accuracy, football IQ, and the swagger to turn Washington around. I agree. And that was one of the more how I'm trying to think of the word. It was the comp that was used the most. It was the one we heard the most. And I agreed with it from the standpoint of his body type. And it'll be interesting to see now that he's down to about 220, 217, if he still kind of plays with that Big Ben mentality of big in the pocket, hard to bring down kind of guy. Now that he's a lot slimmer. But you remember Big Ben was big, and then he lost some weight and got into shape. So we'll see if he can continue on. But as you mentioned, he's got all of the skills that a Big Ben Roethlisberger has. Outside of the height, Big Ben is literally 6'5". Dwayne is more of a 6'3" is what he's listed. He's more of a 6'2" quarterback, but that's no here nor there. The arm talent, the athleticism, the ability to extend, that's where Big Ben differentiates himself from Dwayne Haskins right now. That's what I want to see in 2020 is Dwayne's ability to extend the play and make something happen when things break down. If Dwayne can do that, that's where you start getting the real Big Ben comparisons. I don't think he's there right now, but with this lost weight, and I saw flashes of a guy that could extend last year. If he can put all of those things together with the arm talent that he has, we could be talking about Big Ben 2.0 for sure here in the nation's capital. Thank you for the super chat, the Juice Alert. Got another super chat. This is from DCJ, tripling up. Thank you for the super chat, DCJ. Greatly appreciate you. DCJ writes, my opinion, so much young talent. Skins can sneak up on the East at least. But true potential, I agree with you, is there. Potential to shock like RG3? Agree? Nah, I'm not buying that. I think 2012 was unique because it kind of, in terms of head coach that had won in the league previously, in Mike Shanahan, young quarterback, Kyle Shanahan, a young protege, those things are similar here. And coach's son is your offensive coordinator, Scott Turner, Kyle Shanahan, Super Bowl winning head coach and Mike Shanahan, Super Bowl appearance with Ron Rivera, but kind of same difference, not exactly the same, but apples to apples comparison there. Young quarterback in Robert Griffin III in his rookie season, and a young quarterback in Dwayne Haskins. Not quite the same in terms of nobody knew what to expect with Robert. They rolled out a totally different offense. They were running pistol and they were running read option before that was really the thing to do in the league. They were running it and ahead of the curve before all of this really became as prevalent as it's become in the league now. They brought that out week one, shocking all game versus the Saints, put up 40 in the dome. Nobody saw it coming, and the rest is history. That's not what you're getting from Dwayne. We've seen him on the field. Teams know what to expect. You don't necessarily know what to expect from Scott Turner as an offensive coordinator, but he's not gonna veer too far from the tree that his dad has planted and the Air Coryell system. Those are intertwined in his thought process and in his fabric in terms of how he wants to do things. So I don't think you're going to see him veer away too far from that. As far as us sneaking up on the East, sure, that could happen. You know how it could happen? The East was tragically bad last year. It was trash. What if the East is bad again this year? And remember, we play the AFC North, which is a hell of a division, and we play the NFC West, might be the best division in all of football. So the East could be bad again, and it could come down to, week 17, 8-8 winning you the division. So sure, we could sneak up on the East, but if the East is good, like it was 2-3 years ago, and you got a 11-5 Dallas, a 10-6 Philadelphia, or vice versa, or 12-4 Philadelphia and an 11-5 Dallas. No, we're not sneaking up on the East. So if the East comes to us and we don't have to go to them, we got a shot. But if we got to go to them, and when I mean go to them, we got to get to double digits to do some damage. That's a little bit of a stretch for me. If the East comes to us, special delivery. If they come to us and we look up and we get to week 14 and the best record in the division is 6-7, hey, or 6-6, hey, we got a shot. But I don't anticipate that happening. But thank you for the super chat, DCJ. Got another super chat. This one is from JP. And my man JP, double up, Thank you for doubling up, JP. Greatly appreciate you. My man JP writes, with Logan Thomas on the COVID list to start the season, not the season, just training camp, Thad Moss needs to use this opportunity to take the starting tight end job. I don't see that happening. They are really banking, and I talked about this earlier in the show, but they are really banking on Logan Thomas. I'm listening, and I haven't heard the tight ends coach talk yet. I'd love to hear from him and what he thinks about the room and the guys that he's going to be coaching this year. Obviously, and when we get to coach speak here in a second, you'll realize that these guys don't know anything about these players. They haven't had them. They haven't done anything, and they're not doing anything really in camp yet. So hard for them to really assess what they have until they put the pads on and they start actually seeing these guys in live situations. But to speak to what JP talked about with Logan Thomas, they're banking on Logan Thomas to start at tight end. I really believe they're putting all their eggs in the Logan Thomas basket. And, the COVID situation, it's just for 14 days. He's got a quarantine. It's already been like a week or a week and a half. I think he'll be back sometime next week, if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to Logan Thomas. So he'll be back in plenty of time. They're not doing anything right now. I'm pretty sure he's on Zoom conference calls with the team, trying to get, as much mental reps as he possibly can. He's probably got a tablet at home, and he's got, he's got the full video of practice every day. So whatever the tight ends are doing, he's able to sit at home and watch and, be able to go along. So he's not really missing anything, and they're not doing anything right now per se anyway. So I don't know how much a guy like Thad Moss can really take advantage of this situation, because they're not doing all that much. They're literally playing catch probably at the tight end position. Maybe they're hitting the sled a little bit. Maybe they're, doing agility drills or, working on techniques for blocking, hand placement, things of that nature. But they're not really actually getting after it right now. So I don't know if there's really any ground that can be made up at this very moment. But thank you for the super chat, JP. DCJ with another super chat. Thank you for the super chat again, DCJ, coming in late, killing it. I really appreciate you, DCJ, who writes, I agree with you on at least top 10 in sacks, but I think the majority of our cornerbacks are more fit for zone than man. Mimic Seattle's OD. Your thoughts? Hashtag HTTR. That's exactly what we're going to be playing. And the only thing that will stop us from playing it as aggressively as Seattle did in their heyday is we don't have Earl Thomas on our defense. We don't have a guy that you could line up as a single high safety and cover three and ask him to cover the middle third of the football field. But they're hoping Sean Davis might be able to give them some of that. But at the end of the day, I think we're going to be playing a lot of cover three. That's what Rivera was in Carolina. That's what Chris Harris did in San Diego with the Chargers. In Los Angeles with the Chargers. And so I fully expect the Washington football team to run a lot of different forms of cover three. But at the end of the day, they want to rush four, they want to drop seven into coverage, and they want to keep everything in front of them because they want to play bend but don't break defense. And they expect the offense to either make a mistake or the defense to force them into some advantageous situations. What I mean by that is, if you force a team on a 13-play drive, at some point of that drive, you're expecting a holding penalty or a false start or a batted ball at the line of scrimmage that kills a down or a sack on 2nd and 7. Now it's 3rd and 13, something to throw them off kilter to ultimately destroy the drive, whether it's force a field goal, force a punt, or, force them to have to make a tough decision on 4th and 5. After, 3rd and 17, you get 12 yards on 3rd and 17, and you get to 4th and 5, but you're in no man's land. Too far for a field goal, too close to punt. Maybe they go for it, and you stop them, and now you get great field position. So bottom line is they want to keep everything in front of them. Nothing cheap, nothing deep. Don't give up big plays. And so they feel like if they can do that, they're going to give themselves the best chance. That's what they did in Carolina, and they did it very well. That's how Josh Norman made his money. I think that's what they're going to do here. And so I fully expect this defense to be more in that mold of Seattle. Cover 3, keep everything in front of you. Be aggressive in that cover 3 defense. Try to cover as much ground as you can. And that's where your defenders have to be smart. You can't just cover up grass. You can't allow your eyes to get you into trouble. You have a responsibility. Do your job. Stay deeper than the deepest. Make sure you keep everything in front of you. You rally up. If a guy runs into your zone, you carry that guy. Because the misconception about zone is that it's just zone. You just got a patch of grass to cover or an area. Zone converts to man coverage. All right? So if a guy runs into your area, he's now your man until he vacates your zone. If you do not have a threat in your zone, then you pick that guy up and you start to play him. So, there are concepts that you have to understand. And Chris Harris goes into explicit detail on how guys have to trust each other. And you got to be able to know what the safety behind you is going to do, what that corner is going to do if you're a safety, and vice versa. So, again, we'll get into that in Coach Speak to wrap up the show. But yes, I agree with you. A lot of zone, a lot of cover 3, similar to Seattle, similar to Carolina in their heyday. Thank you for the super chat, DCJ. Got another super chat. This is from Martin Matthews. We're going to go with 4. It might be a third. It doesn't matter. Triple, double, quadruple. You my man. You my guy. Martin Matthews, double M, writes, "Hey, Louie. Holcomb can run, but struggled with covering. Do you think the team will depend on him when covering opponents' tight ends?" So he was a rookie. A lot going on, a lot to process in his head. He did struggle at times covering guys out of the backfield, but that's something he can get better at. We know he's got the speed to run, so we don't worry about that. Now it's about getting him to process things. And the biggest thing is, the biggest jump comes from year 1 to year 2. All right, so you're a rookie, you're wide-eyed, a lot of information to process. You're trying to figure out where you belong, what you're supposed to do, what's your responsibility on this particular play. It's a lot. Sometimes it becomes overload, and you see guys thinking instead of playing. Now you're in year 2. You've been in the league. You know what they're asking you to do. You know what your responsibilities are. Now you can just go play. You're not bogged down by thinking as much. I think Cole Holcomb is a guy that will get better as he understands his role and what he's being asked to do. And so, he may be the guy tasked with the responsibility of running with the other team's tight end. Maybe they give that job to somebody else. Maybe Reuben Foster ends up being your weak side backer and is the guy running with a lot of the opposing team's tight ends. And so we'll see what happens as time progresses, what they decide to do with the linebacker group as a whole, who they decide is better suited to run with guys in the slot, run with running backs out of the backfield, run with tight ends, whether you're the strong side backer or you're the weak side backer. At the end of the day, like I said, Cole Holcomb to me is a traditional weak side linebacker. I look at him and he's got weak side backer written all over him. And so I'd love to see what he's able to do when he gets it and doesn't have to think as much. So thank you for the super chat, Double M. Great question as pertaining to Cole Holcomb. DCJ, can't see you at this point. Really appreciate you, DCJ. Thank you so much for the super chat. My man DCJ writes, "I missed out mad weeks, Lou, trying to catch up. Life. I understand, man. Life comes at you fast, man. And I've always said, go get your bread. If they out there offering you extra bread to put on your table, go get it, man. And things happen. That's why I said it's always here to watch on playback. You know, whether you catch it live or not, I really appreciate you playing catch up, though. Missed you. Glad you're here. And glad to hear from you, man. I'm glad to know that you're okay and everything's all right, man. But really appreciate you. Thank you for another super chat, DCJ. Let's see if we got any more super chats. Got another super chat. This one is from DCJ again. DCJ, killing it, writes, I'm not sold on Giants weak. Philly Wentz breaks like eggs. The boys, Dak more worried about a check. I agree. We still week 1 and sneak turkey day. Agree. No, I don't agree. I'm not sold on the Giants either, but you shouldn't be. They're just like us. They're fighting to try to get out of the cellar, out of the basement. No one's expecting much of the Giants this year. People are expecting a lot more of the Giants than they are us. They think we're the absolute worst in this division. I vehemently disagree. I don't think the Giants are that much better than us, but Vegas and a lot of people out there seem to think that is the case. As far as the Eagles are concerned, Wentz has not proven that he can stay healthy for a full 16 games since like his first or second year of his career, but guy's uber talented. He usually plays in more games than he misses. And at the end of the day, they drafted a quarterback. This is why I believe they did the right thing by drafting Jalen Hurts in the second round. Now they got a real insurance policy in the event that he is to go down, like they had when they had Nicholas Foles. So I don't think the Eagles, are going to have a problem this year if Wentz were to go down per se. Like, they're not the same team as he goes down, obviously, and you're talking about relying on a rookie quarterback. But I think Wentz is going to be fine, and I think the Eagles are a very talented team, so don't think they're just going to be a pushover. I do think we're going to beat them in week 1. I'm not backing off of that, however. And then you look at the Cowboys. They're the most talented team in the division. They're one of the most talented teams in the league, not just in the division. If they put it all together, they're capable of winning the Super Bowl. They're dangerous. I'm not sleeping on the Cowboys. I just want to beat them once. The best chance that we have is going to come at home. All right. Thanksgiving, more likely than not, if we get to that game, hard to do. And who's to say? Maybe the Cowboys are allowing fans in the stadium at that point. I don't know if they're one of the teams that has said, hey, we're only going to allow, 10, 12,000 fans in the stands. Maybe they're one of the teams that said nobody's coming in Jerry's world. If I know Jerry, like I think I know Jerry, he's going to try to put as many fans in the stands as he can. So they're going to have some fans in the stands more likely than not, even though I think Corona might be a little bit worse then, especially being that it will be flu season when we play them in Dallas. But look, at the end of the day, I don't expect us to go to Dallas on Thanksgiving and win. But I think we're very capable of beating them in Washington. Why not? Why not? But I said all of that to say this. I built in a win against every team in the division when I had us going 6-10. Like, that's built in. So, these aren't extra victories that you're bringing up for me. We're 6-10 with us going 3-3 in the division, and I think we beat like Cincinnati, Carolina, and Detroit or somebody like that. It's not. I didn't have us winning any games in the division, and we're adding in wins here. So we'll see what happens. But thank you for the super chat yet again, DCJ. Gally Sanford, you also are killing it, man. You are the man. Can't state that enough. Thank you so much, Gally Sanford. Absolutely, you are the real MVP. Gally Sanford, my man, writes, Louie, all I want is that picture you told us about in your skin shirt at 6 to 8 years old, LOL. One day, wifey will have to bring you in a drink or something. Man, you've been killing it tonight. Hail, family. I got a picture of me. I got to find it. It's in one of those albums with my Hutch. It was a Hutch Mark Rippon outfit. So it was a number 11 jersey with the striped pants and the Hutch helmet. And helmet, I still got the helmet. It's in pretty rough shape. It is in pretty rough shape, but I still have it at my parents' house. And good times, man. Me running around, singing Hail to the Redskins. I didn't know any of the words. I just knew Hail to the Redskins. And they played it quite often in those days because we were scoring a lot of damn touchdowns. And I just knew we were winning games, man. It was fun. You know, it was fun. It was good times. I'd like to bring a wise man once told me, man, I don't know where the good times at. I'm just trying to bring the good times back. I just want to bring the good times back, man. I don't know where they at, but I'm just trying to bring the good times back. So I'd like to relive those days as an adult. It'd be really nice. Be really fun. Could you imagine a ticker tape parade for winning a Super Bowl? You know, those are things that Redskins fans used to take for granted back in the day. We'd love to have one of those now. Anyhow, thank you for the super chat, Gally Sanford. Got another super chat. This one is from DCJ again. DCJ killing it. DCJ writes, from the early team interviews, coaches are being super conservative, yet things just got started. But all they are hiding and denying potential surprise. This isn't them trying to hide anything or them being super conservative with information. There's nothing to tell. They're not doing anything. They haven't met these players before. All they know is what they've seen on social media and what they've encountered with these guys in these Zoom meetings. They don't know these players. All they know is what they've seen on film. They don't know these guys from Adam, from Eve. They're still learning guys' names. You know, I was funny listening to the linebackers coach, Steve Russ, and he was talking about how he was messing up Khaleke Hudson's name. He was calling him Kaliki. And Khaleke was like, it's Khaleke. Like, little stuff like that would annoy me if I'm a player because, dude, there's a draft process and there's all of this stuff leading up. Like, it's not hard to figure out my name, you know? But that's not here nor there. He didn't even know his name, you know? Ron Rivera's still learning people's name. He called Jaron Christian, called him Jaron Christian. And that's an easy mistake. We were calling him Jaron Christian for years. It's Jaron Christian. All right, but that's what happens when you got two first names. Anyway, I said all that to say this. They're still learning these players. They can't tell you much about any of these guys. Some of the best interviews were by veteran coaches. A lot of these coaches on this staff, they're either younger coaches or they haven't been here. They were with Rivera in the past, and so they're not very familiar with these guys. You can tell the guys that are students of the game and have done their homework, and you can tell the other guys that they just want to get their hands. Like it's cool to watch film and all. They just want to get their hands on these players. And so, and being in training camp, and if you've been in enough training camps, and you're doing training camp like this year, it's just not the same. They would already be hitting. They would already be in inter squad scrimmages, and tonight would have been the Hall of Fame game. Let that sink in. We would have actually been watching real tackle football tonight. Had this been a normal offseason, tonight would have been the Hall of Fame game. Instead, we're talking about them going through glorified OTAs, shorts and shirts, possibly helmets on, but really not doing much of anything. Going through the motions is what they're doing right now. Rivera said it himself. It's like we're going through OTAs right now. So they're not really hiding anything as much as they are just essentially trying to figure out who are these players and what they bring to the table. So thank you for the super chat, DCJ. And on that note, we will now go to the Coach Speak segment before we get out of here. And I was able to listen to, and I've been really consuming a ton because there's not much. I don't know about you. I can't speak for you guys, but this training camp feels different. It almost feels like we are not getting football. And maybe I just need to overconsume and oversaturate myself in Redskins content to feel that way. And maybe once I start doing my podcast again and I start submerging myself and submerging myself in all of the football content that is out there, I'll feel like it's a real season on the horizon. But right now, kind of feels subdued a bit because this isn't a normal training camp per se. But I was listening to these coaches talk, and they just hammered home the point that this isn't a normal training camp. I heard from Ron Rivera, and that's where we'll start. We'll start with the head man in charge, Ron Rivera. And he pretty much echoed everything he's been saying. He did elaborate that Alex Smith was impressive. He also talked about how impressed he's been with Dwayne Haskins as well. How much command of the offense that he has from a verbiage standpoint, getting everybody lined up and things of that nature, how he looks in great shape. So that was encouraging to hear. He talked about how well Jaron Christian looked. Again, we're talking about movement skills. He talked about Sadiq Charles looking like a great athlete, but he also said it's going to take a little bit for Sadiq to kind of get up to speed in terms of the playbook and verbiage and things of that nature. So in that regard, Jaron probably has the upper hand because he's been in the league 4 years. And even though he hasn't played a ton, he's been around verbiage. He should be able to digest the playbook a lot faster than a rookie coming in Sadiq Charles, but we'll see. So, listening to Ron Rivera speak, he kind of reiterated a lot of the things that he has been saying. And one of the biggest takeaways from Ron was him talking about Logan Thomas in the tight end position. He essentially said, look, man, this is how I read it, and I might be reading too much into this. He essentially said, look, I don't know about the tight end position, but I'm pretty much banking on Logan Thomas. Like, when's Logan coming back? Is he ready to come back yet? Like, he essentially sounded like, hey, Logan's the guy. And you know how I said Sadiq Charles, it's his job to win, but he doesn't have it yet, so it's not his job to lose, but he's going to get the first crack at winning the left tackle position. I think it's the other way around for Logan Thomas. I feel like it's his job to lose. Like, they're handing him the starting tight end position. He's got to pretty much wet the bed and allow other guys to take this opportunity from him. And even with the COVID setback, I think he's still at the front of the class in terms of the tight end position. So that was my biggest takeaway from Ron Rivera speaking. And you get into the positional coaches. My favorite 3 interviews from the positional coaches were Chris Harris, the defensive backs coach, ex-Chicago Bears DB. Randy Jordan, the running backs coach. We know Randy. He's been here for a while. One of the few holdovers along with the special teams coordinator from the last regime. And then Ken Zampese, the quarterbacks coach. A lot of information from him. I thought he was one of the better interviews that I watched. Jim Hostler, the wide receivers coach. He's an interesting guy. We'll talk about him in a second. Sam Mills III is the defensive line coach. A lot of energy there. He's a guy that's very energetic. And Steve Russ is another guy that he's someone that's very interesting to me. But you start with Sam Mills III, defensive line coach. He's excited, obviously, because he's got one of the most talented groups on the football team. So he's got a lot to work with. He talked about Chase Young and how he doesn't seem like he's a rookie. Seems like he's a veteran. He's a guy that comes in, puts in the work, is well prepared, that kind of thing. He talked about snaps. That's a conversation a lot of people want to have about snaps, how you're going to, divvy that up. And he's like, look, if we're winning games, if we're ahead, there's going to be plenty of snaps to go around for all of these guys. But we want to put the best players on the field. But he's like, look, especially early in the season when guys are trying to get their legs under them, we're going to have these guys in heavy rotation. And, it's a great problem to have when you've got a bunch of talented players, because what that means is essentially you can keep fresh bodies on the field at all times. And that's what we're looking to do, is rotate these guys in and out, keep fresh bodies out there so that we can get guys performing at maximum efficiency. So it was good to hear from him. Look forward to seeing what he's able to do with this talented group of defenders. Chris Harris, the DB's coach, was an interesting listen. I remember him from his playing days, and I really liked the message that he was providing, which was, hey, look, I was a late round draft pick as a 6th round pick out of Louisiana Lafayette. I had to scratch and claw for everything that I got in this league, and so I have a soft spot for the Jimmy Morelands and the Greg Stromans of the world. Stroman was a 6th round pick. Moreland was a 7th round pick. These are guys that I think are very talented. It's a young group of corners, but there are also some veterans mixed in, and he talked about liking Fab Moreau's length and speed and size as a corner that played outside. But he also said that, they're DBs. They're not just corners and safeties. He's like, we're DBs. I tell my players this all the time. You're not just a corner. You got to know every position on the field, especially in the secondary, and you got to know what the responsibility is. You might be playing a little bit of safety. You might be playing a little bit of nickel. You might be playing out wide, and that goes for everybody. They got to know. We might be asking Landon Collins to drop over the slot, even though I don't think they're going to try to put him in that position. He's like, he still needs to know what his responsibility is if we do ask him to do that. He talked about Landon Collins and said, man, he's a beast in the box. Remember how everybody wanted to get away from calling him just a box safety? Let's call a spade. Let's call a spade a spade. He's really good in the box. He does Pro Bowl-like work in the box. He's just a guy away from the line of scrimmage. You put Landon Collins in the box, and he's a difference maker. Let's call a spade a spade. He is a dominant box safety. All right? Cool. We paid $86 million or whatever it was, $84 million for a box safety. Whatever. I don't care. Maximize the guy's ability. That's what I'm looking forward to, and Chris Harris sounds like he wants to do that. He talked about, Kendall Fuller and bringing him in, and again, utilizing all of these guys. Remember, Kendall played safety, nickel, and corner in this league. Here, the first time around, he was primarily a nickel. In Kansas City, he played out wide his first season, and in his second year, he played a lot of safety. So he's like, look, a lot of guys have versatility, flexibility. I just want these guys to understand they're not tied or bound to any one position. We're DBs. You got to be able to tackle. You got to be able to play safety. You got to be able to play nickel. You got to be able to play out wide. I love it. So that was his message. He talked about having some veterans like Aaron Colvin. He talked about having, a veteran like Darby come in. And he's like, these are all guys that, if you use them correctly, they're going to. And Ron Rivera talked about Darby saying, hey, look, Darby, I don't think it's a diminished skills standpoint. He's just got to be more disciplined with his eyes. His eyes got him into trouble. And he's right. That's essentially how Terry McLaurin got behind him last year. Eyes get him in trouble, not paying attention. A wise man once told me, hey, man, mind your luggage. All right? Don't lose your luggage. You don't have a lot to do. The guy in front of you is your luggage. Keep your luggage. Okay? Don't lose your luggage, man. You get nosy. You start eyeballing the backfield, looking at the quarterback, and minding other people's luggage. Yours ends up getting lost. All right? So then you get to Randy Jordan. He was fun. He was a fun one. Talking about the running back. And remember, he's got more experience because he was here last year. He's got experience with these guys. So he can talk very candidly about Darius Geis and AD and, J.D. Mckissick, even though he wasn't here last year. He can talk about a Bryce Love. These are all players he's familiar with. And so he was interesting because he talked about AD being, from a different planet, which he is because he's 35 and he's still playing like he's 28. But I talked about, what he said earlier, how what you want to do with these running backs because you have a dearth of talent and versatility with these guys. You want to put guys in the best positions to succeed, meaning you don't want to put Adrian Peterson in the game to run, as I mentioned, arrow route. Or you don't want to put him in to run a route into the flats to catch the football. That's not when you've got J.D. Mckissick and Antonio Gibson and Bryce Love and other guys that can catch. You don't want to put Adrian Peterson in there. But in the same token, it's 3rd and 1. I don't want to put Bryce Love in the game for 3rd and 1. I don't want J.D. Mckissick in on 3rd and 1. I want AD in, or I want Darius Geis in on 3rd and 1. So he essentially said, look, everybody's got to know what their responsibility is, no matter how you're going to be used. But we're going to make sure we put guys on the field in the best positions to succeed. And, obviously that's what you got to do. And so I thought Randy Jordan was awesome and kind of breaking that down and talking about the running back position. And he's excited about the running backs. He said he's excited because he thinks the running backs are going to have a much bigger role in this offense catching the football than in past years in Jay Gruden's system. And that's what he's most excited about. He's like, it's more of a challenge. Things can get stale when you're doing the same stuff over and over again. This year, the running back in this system under Scott Turner, the running backs are going to be more responsible for catching the football out of the backfield. And so he's excited about challenging these running backs to really be a big part of the pass offense. You look at linebackers coach Steve Russ. Really interesting guy. He talked about coaching Luke Kuechly and saying, look, Luke Kuechly was a one-of-a-kind type of linebacker, a Hall of Fame guy. Obviously, we don't have that guy here, but, being in that environment with him and Thomas Davis once upon a time and Shaq Thompson and all the talented guys that they have, they know what talented linebacker play and talented linebackers look like. So he's coming in here with an idea of, hey, how can we get guys to play at a high level and get guys to perform in this defense the way that we did in Carolina when we had top-notch linebacker play. So he kind of talked about a lot of the guys. The most interesting thing that Steve Russ said didn't pertain to any of the guys in the linebacker room. He did talk about Reuben Foster, and he said Reuben Foster's doing everything we could ask of him at this point. He's been great in terms of leadership. He's taking every mental rep. You see him mouthing every play, even when I'm talking to a different player. So he said, had nothing but great things to say about Reuben Foster. But he talked about Ryan Anderson. He said, I'm going to be honest with you. Ryan Anderson really hasn't been in my room. Ryan Anderson has been in Steve's room. Steve being Sam's room, being Sam Mills, the third room, meaning he's been with the defensive line, so the defensive ends. Interesting development there that I didn't really necessarily think. And you know what? It's early, and they could have him in the D-line room. He could be also kind of going back and forth down the road. He might be in the backers room. We just all assume that he'd be kicking ass as a strong side linebacker, that he'd be jacking up some tight ends in the run game, blowing up some stuff in the backfield, and just being dominant over the tight end. I don't know about that. They may have other plans. Remember, Ron Rivera was non-committal on what the hell to do with Ryan Anderson. He's like, we got to figure out a way to utilize Ryan Anderson. We really don't know. He kind of admitted that on a Zoom call a while back. So sounds like he's in the defensive line room. And Steve Russ kind of admitted that, passive aggressively, like, hey, look, I can't really tell you much about him. He hasn't even really been in my room. So that's something to keep an eye on. Then you get to wide receiver coach Jim Hostler, and I can tell you this, interesting guy, very quiet, but he's so direct. And I can tell you right now, he's going to coach those receivers hard. So my biggest take, and he had a lot of information, and he's another one of these guys. His first name is Frank, his last name is Blunt. All right, because he's Frank and Blunt. All right, this guy is no nonsense. And he's like, look, I don't know these guys. The only guy that's done anything is Terry McLaurin. I couldn't tell you any of these guys. Adam from Eve. We don't have a lot of experience in this room. We're young. He said, Terry's good, but he's not great. He's like, look, he's right about Terry. It's only been 1 year. All right. And he said, it's easy for a guy to come in and nobody's really looking for you. Terry wasn't a first-round pick. Terry wasn't a second-round pick. He was a third-round pick in the 2019 draft. And so nobody was expecting Terry. We didn't see Terry at all in the preseason, so we didn't really know what to expect. And he just burst onto the scene and ate the Eagles alive and should have even had even more yards. Should have had damn near 200 yards on the Eagles in week 1 if Case Keenum would have hit him on that second deep ball. That's nor here nor there. Anyway, he's like, it's easy to sneak up on people when they don't know you're coming. And he's right. That's why the Redskins have always been good when everyone's think we're going to stink, because there's no expectations. There's no one, looking at you as the hunted. You're usually the hunter in those situations. And Terry was the hunter last year. Now he's going to be the hunted. He ate up some very good NFL corners last year. Stephon Gilmore and Darius Slay. He went toe-to-toe with the league's best last year and roasted them at times. So there's going to be a bullseye on his chest now, on his back, because other teams are now looking at Terry McLaurin and saying, hey, you're the number one, and we're going to treat you as such. Last year, teams didn't respect him as much. If we were to play the Patriots again, they'd just take Stephon Gilmore and stick him on him and let him travel with him. That's the kind of respect Terry McLaurin now has. He didn't necessarily garner that last season. And so Jim Hostler said, look, he's got to prove that he can be a number one now because everyone's going to give him number one treatment. And so he's right, because once upon a time, there was a guy named Michael Clayton. A lot of you don't remember Michael Clayton. And for good reason. He had one tremendous season. And you know where that season came? His rookie season in Tampa. I think it was like 2006, 2007, somewhere in there. Burst onto the scene out of LSU. 80 catches, 1,100 plus yards, damn near 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns. I remember he had a touchdown where his helmet came off and he did the Dougie in the end zone. I was like, damn, Michael Clayton out there beasting. Damn, Tampa hit it big with this dude. I just told you he had 7 touchdowns in his rookie season. He had 10 for his career. So 3 touchdowns the next 6 years of his career. He had 1,193 yards that rookie season. He ended up with 2,300 yards for his career. All right. He had like 224 catches in his career. 80 of them came in his rookie season. So a third of those catches came in year one. And I don't think that's going to be Terry McLaurin. So don't get what I'm saying twisted. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm just telling you, you've got to go out and prove it. Teams started treating Michael Clayton like a number one. Injuries hit, and then he couldn't rise to the level of play that those number one corners were putting on his ass. I think Terry's going to show up. He's going to show out. But Jim Hostler was like, look, he's going to have to prove he's a number one. Teams are going to treat him like a number one. He's not sneaking up on anybody anymore. He's got to go out and prove it. We're going to see if he can do that. He also talked about the rest of these receivers like, look, man, I don't know what we got. All right, none of these guys have proven anything. He didn't even give Steven Sims any love. He was like, look, I don't know any of these guys. Even Sims did a little something, but look, all of these guys got to prove it. It's a clean slate. Cam Sims is no different than Steven Sims in my estimation. He's looking at it and he's like, look, everybody's got a chance. They got to prove it to me. So that's going to be really interesting to see what he does with that group. Because he even cussed. A lot of these guys were reserved. He even cussed on his presser. He was like, yeah, Terry, last year, teams weren't coming at him. Normally, teams jam the shit out of you. I was like, whoa. You don't hear guys getting aggressive with their language. But Jim Hostler is really interesting. It'll be interesting to see how these receivers respond to him and the way he coaches. I'm looking forward to seeing that. And then Ken Zampese might have been the most informative and maybe my favorite interview. I knew Ken Zampese. His dad was Ernie Zampese, been in the league. When you hear the Zampese name, it's like a family lineage thing, like Turner or Shanahan. It's just one of those football families that's been around for a long time. And he told the story about Joe Gibbs trying to recruit his dad to Washington. Remember, Gibbs came from San Diego. Air Coryell, you see where the comparisons and all of the carryover comes from. And we talk about Air Coryell all the time, the overlap. That's why Ken Zampese is here, because that's, what he's familiar with. His dad was familiar with that offense. That's why Joe wanted him here, because Joe was an Air Coryell disciple. So y'all see how all of this stuff is interconnected and how it kind of intertwines with one another. But he told that story. I loved him talking about Dwayne. He's, talking about Dwayne working out with Cam Newton. He said, look, I called up Dwayne when I saw the picture of him with Cam Newton out there with Deshaun Watson and Cam. I hit him up immediately. It was like, yo, you need to pick his brain and get as many shortcuts and different things about this playbook as you can. And he said, Coach, I'm already on it. So he's like, I love that he was already on it. And he talked about Dwayne, and he said, I love Dwayne's release. It's quick. It's fluid. There are no holes in his motion. He's like, the guy's got a cannon. He's smart. Everything that you're looking for in a quarterback. And he says, the thing I love about him most is that, and really the thing I love, tutoring and mentoring young quarterbacks, because Ken Zampese's been through the gamut of quarterbacks. He's been around Brett Favre. He's been around Donovan McNabb. He's been around Kurt Warner. All of these were winning franchises. And when these quarterbacks were young in their infant stages of their careers, he was around these quarterbacks. So he knows a thing or two. Andy Dalton, Carson Palmer, and in Cincinnati. And Baker Mayfield most recently in 2018 when Baker Mayfield hit the ground running as a rookie and lit it up, the guy that really got a lot of the credit, and rightfully so for that, was Ken Zampese. He was the guy that was really mentoring Baker Mayfield and got him to play that well. And it's not a coincidence that in 2019 when Ken Zampese moves on, Baker Mayfield struggled in 2019. So, and you know, a lot of that had to do with his offensive coordinator going to head coach and really being in over his head, but that's nor here nor there. Bottom line is that Ken Zampese, very knowledgeable guy, been around the block. He said, I love mentoring young quarterbacks because they don't know any better. You know, they're not stuck in their ways. They haven't learned things, and they're not jaded by what you're saying. They're like sponges. They want to soak everything up. They're like a slab of clay. You can mold them any way you want. They don't have any preconceived notions about how things are supposed to be done. They're just looking to soak up all the information. So Ken Zampese, he even got into some football nerdy stuff, which I love. You know, he gave us a call. He was talking about, you know, how he's trying to lump these reads together for Dwayne. So, you know, 6 or, you know, 9 plays might have the same 2 reads, similar concepts. But look, these are the reads you need to be looking at and trying to group it together to make it easy for Dwayne. I just thought he was really informative. Loved Ken Zampese. I just think this is a really strong group of coaches, you know, stronger than what we've had in the past. I'm excited to see what they're able to do. But the theme essentially was, look, we haven't really gotten a chance to see what these guys can do because we're not really doing anything in camp yet. But it was interesting to hear these guys speak and talk about their philosophies and what they think about some of these players. And so ultimately, I think this is going to be a very, very interesting group of coaches that the Washington football team has moving forward under Ron Rivera. Got a couple of super chats, I think, or at least one more. I got one. DCJ again. Thank you for the super chat, DCJ. Like I said, absolutely killing it. DCJ writes, some things concern me with Haskins, but I think a surprise breakout like 20 touchdown passes, 20 plus touchdown passes. My concern is that they may lean otherwise, even with talent. It's you know, look, at the end of the day, I think that Dwayne is going to take a massive step forward. I think 20 plus touchdown passes, without a doubt. If he plays 16 games, it's no doubt in my mind he's going to eclipse 20 touchdown passes. I think the real question is, can he keep the interception total down? Ken Zampese spoke and he said, you know, the big thing is we're looking for guys to be aggressive down the field, which that's Dwayne. He said, without turning it over, you know, just eliminate the dumb throws, you know, the dummy decisions. Like we're not trying to, you know, turn the football over, but we want to be aggressive. You know, when those opportunities come down the field, take them. And that's something that Alex Smith refuses to do, which is why I think, you know, Dwayne, even if there were a real competition here, Dwayne would win it. But he also talked about Kyle Allen. He's been really impressed with Kyle Allen, and he really likes him and thinks that there's a lot of growth there for a guy like Kyle Allen. And I like to hear that because I think Kyle Allen has the potential to be a great backup quarterback for us for many years to come. You know how there was this level of comfort, even though he could never stay healthy when he would actually get a chance to play. There was a level of comfort with Colt McCoy that if something happened, we were straight. Colt would come in and be able to salvage something. And I haven't had this level of comfort, you know, because I like Kyle Allen. I think he could be really solid. I haven't had this level of comfort since when the Redskins drafted both Robert Griffin III and Kirk Cousins in the same draft. I was like, yo, if anything happens to Robert, I feel confident that Kirk can come in like he did versus the Ravens, save that game, like he did versus the Browns, played that whole game, started and played that whole game and lit the Browns up. Kirk was fully capable, and I feel the same way about Kyle Allen. In a pinch, if Kyle Allen has to come in, I feel like he can come in and run the ship, and there won't be, you know, this falling off of the table like when Dirty Chez was here or Josh Johnson was here, where you're just like, man, we can't even run most of the damn offense anymore. I think we'll be just fine if he has to come in. So thank you for the super chat, DCJ. Got another super chat from DCJ. Thank you, man. Really appreciate you. DCJ writes yet again. My opinion, left side is not as much a concern as others. Wes Martin will lock in at right guard, at left guard. Rookie will have a few woes, but I think he is the most ready. I think he's the guy with the most upside. And if you're the Redskins, if you're the Washington football team's coaching staff, you want Sadiq Charles to win this job. You want him. You want to take your lumps now. Again, I said this a bunch of times already. You want to take your lumps in 2020 because the expectation is that you're not going to win anything. And they're not conceding that. All right, they're not going into the season saying we're not going to win ball games. But the expectation is that you're not going to win a lot of games. Nobody is expecting you to win anything. And get your lumps out of the way now. And if Sadiq is the guy, let him play. Let him take his lumps. Let him figure some things out. And, let him get better. Because you're only going to get better playing. There's only so many mental reps you can take. You're not going to get better by just watching. So I like you think the left side not going to be as big a problem as people think. I think Wes Martin is going to come in, lock up left guard. We're not going to have any issues there. And you remember we were talking about the left side of the offensive line last year. Oh, my God, what are we going to do? Left guard. What are we going to do at left tackle? No Trent. Trent doesn't come back. What are we going to do at left tackle? Oh, my God, I cannot believe that they're putting Eric Flowers at guard. We're going to stink. Left side of the line is going to be trash. It ended up being a right side that was a problem. All right, Morgan Moses struggled last year, dealt with some injuries, and Brandon Sheriff got injured again, and it was musical chairs at right guard. And I don't think that's going to be the case at on the right side of the line. I just don't think the left side is going to be as problematic as we all think. We thought it was going to be a problem last year. It turned out to be the strong side of the line, or at least the more adequate side of the line. I think it's going to be just fine this year as well. I agree with you, DCJ. So, with that being said, I think that is going to do it. I told you this was going to be a very, very long show, so much so that we went 3.5 hours. Wow. But I thank you guys for rocking with me for the entire time. For those of you who jumped in late and just jumped in and got busy, I appreciate you as well. I love doing these. I love chopping it up with you guys. You guys make it fun. Even when it's been less than fun being a Washington football team fan, you guys have made it that much more enjoyable to do it. So, as always, I'm a Washington football fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington football pride will never die. Washington pride will never fold until we meet again. Hail to the Washington football team. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Make sure that you guys like the video. Make sure that you guys subscribe to the Louie T Network. If you haven't already done so, make sure that you guys hit that notification button so you don't miss a thing. Also, if you haven't already done so, you can hit me up on Patreon and donate there. I'm going to have a lot of great content on Patreon in the upcoming season. Looking forward to doing that with you guys. Also, there's CashApp, LouieTeeNetwork on CashApp. There's also PayPal, LouieTeeNetwork on PayPal. So there's various ways to donate. You guys are awesome. You guys killed it again tonight, as you usually do. And so I thank you guys so much for all of your support. Until next time, you guys take it easy, stay safe, and take care of yourself and your loved ones. And we will reconvene at a later date and time. I'm about to relaunch the Louie T Network podcast. I got a big rollout coming for that. So stay tuned for that. I don't know exactly when I'm going to do it. I'm so anxious. I'm ready to get it going, but I got some more kinks to iron out. So once I get that off the ground and running, you'll know. And that's going to be something that I'll be doing a lot more of moving forward. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Any big Redskins news that comes out, I'll be back. But until then, you guys take care. Have a good one. Stay safe.
LouieTeeNetwork.